Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
And I'm muted to start the show. That's what I do. I cut us out hard, and I muted us to start, and I think Kate is frozen. So this is a fun start. Wow, I've made it interesting for everyone. That's an old school hard cut before Ann had built in a fade that I did on purpose.
I just had my internet.
Yep.
My 1,000,000% just glitched right out.
Yep, you're
So
catching up.
I'll just pretend that the intro played here.
And she cut out again. You guys are gonna get a Ryan heavy show, it looks like. Wait, she's fixing. Is she back?
Oh my gosh, what is going on? I'm here,
She's
but
pixely.
like I'm actually seeing you, B. So you're pixely to me.
People watching, if you're in our comment section right now, can you tell us which one of us is bad so that the other person can try to fix? And please let it be Kate, because it's just better for me. She went away. All right, well, you're into the Ryan show. So how's everybody doing tonight? Oh, wait. Are we? And she's back, baby.
Hey.
I didn't even get a chance to really sell the Ryan show. How dare you?
Thank God. No, that's my internet was like, we can't have that.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means. My internet sucks. Ryan's here. I'm here. It's the last Mark Order podcast episode of the year, Ryan.
Oh my God. And of course, as usual, Anthony's not here.
Yeah, I know. Typical Ant, never around. They can't all be like me and Matt Bowman, you know what I mean? Or Millionaire Matt. Whatever.
I agree. Ant misses all our shows.
It's true. He really does. He doesn't care. I guess he's transitioning to a part-time deal. He really doesn't do a lot of work for the show. Like last week I said some nice things about him. That was just like I was just throwing him a bone pretty much. But Ryan, how was your holiday? How was Christmas?
It was good. Did nothing. Well, I did something. We had a family party on Christmas Eve. Went to my sister's on Christmas. Then I've been off for the week, so I'm doing nothing. And it is wonderful.
That's glorious. I'm not off from work, but pretty much everybody that we deal with as a company is. So it's good shit. Like I'm at work, but I work from home and it's very chill and it's actually been really nice because I haven't been getting interrupted. But good stuff. Did Santa bring you everything you wanted?
Yes, I've gotten to that age where it's just clothes.
Yeah, clothes and money is like what it becomes. Everything that your grandmother got you as a kid that you hated as a kid, you want as an adult. Like, oh, here's some socks. It's like, hell yeah, get me some high quality socks. That rules.
Yep, it's basically whatever my parents and or sisters believe I need to add to my wardrobe.
That's fair. That's good. And it keeps you in check.
I mean, I wouldn't change my wardrobe, so I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It'll like see you need like the input of others to help move.
I'd still be dressing
forward.
like it was 2005 if it were up to me. So.
Oh my gosh, what was 2005 Ryan dressing like?
Honestly, it's probably what's in style now, but honestly, I don't know if it's any different. I think I still am dressing like 2005 Ryan.
See, so there you go. Your family knows you well enough to know.
Jeans and t-shirts.
Jeans and t-shirts, though, that's the way to go. And like, you've had a corporate day job, so when you're not in day job clothes, you probably want to like be in jeans and a t-shirt.
That's true. Or just no pants at all.
No pants. No
No
pants,
pants in
hell.
hell.
The most consistent I ever had to dress nice for anything job related was an internship, and it was for radio. So go figure. Like the thing that people see me at the least was the nicest I probably ever had to dress. I don't think I had to like dress like tech chic at an agency job I had, with like jeans and like a button down. But like the nicest I've ever had to look was definitely for an internship. And it wasn't serious, so I get it. Like
But
but
even that, like, why? It's like all the radio hosts dress just casual. So
yeah.
what are they expecting there?
I think because you did run into celebrities, so I guess that was probably their thinking. And it was also like right at the time that the merger happened between like Sirius and XM. So I wonder if they were just like trying to put their best foot forward while that was going on. But like I did kind of get it of like, yeah, like I ran into Bon Jovi in the break room and stuff. Like they probably wanted to make sure that he looked kind of nice for like, oh cool, I'm in the elevator with Faith Hill or whatever. Like, especially as an 18-year-old, right? Because they're just happy.
I'm more impressed by the celebrities of that era that you're naming. Well, Bon Jovi's 80s on, but like Faith Hill is a nice pull.
Bon Jovi was, and I'm not like a big Bon Jovi fan musically. He was one of the nicest people, and everybody kind of says this, like one of the nicest people I've ever met. As in, I was an 18-year-old intern, 19-year-old intern at that time, and I was like in the break room, and he was in there, and he was like getting tea, and he was like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry. Did you want tea? What kind of tea do you want?" Like he owed me something. Was like it was like very, very nice. He had like a very human conversation with me. That was really cool. And Howard Stern I ran into Howard Stern in the elevator, and that was probably the most awkward. Like being a 19-year-old girl and knowing what Howard Stern has done and did. Was just like, and he had his sunglasses on in the elevator. He was super like cool in the elevator, like he was nice, but it was just like I was sitting there next to Howard
Yeah,
Stern.
but also like 10 years earlier, he'd be inviting you in the studio to do something very inappropriate. So
yeah, and like it was, I don't think it's serious. He was ever like as quote unquote bad as when he was on his previous show, but like he was like I remember him like marking women's bodies for their imperfections and stuff, and I'm like 19 years old in an elevator with him.
I learned what a Sibian was because of Howard Stern.
Educational.
But yeah, no. So how was your Christmas?
My Christmas was good. The four of us being in the same room was really, really nice. My sister's had long COVID, and it took a lot out of her to get home. But it was really good that she made the effort because it was really, really nice. Same deal, like clothes and money for the most part. But it was really nice to just like chill at my parents'. And the only glitch was my sister's dog and Daphne didn't get along. And by that, I mean my sister's dog didn't like Daphne because they met not under the best circumstances. Like it was freezing cold. My sister's dog had already been in the car for an hour, and she had just had surgery like the week before. So it wasn't like the best circumstances, but we were hopeful. Her dog didn't get along with Buster at all. But Daphne, I was like, okay, well, we haven't had like an aggressive encounter. And it wasn't too aggressive. Lydia's dog just like growled at her, and she just laid down. And I was like, you are just the most submissive little dog in the whole wide world. Like, which was great for me. But thankfully my parents are only an hour away. We were just hoping they would get along so I could just like go stay over or whatever. But it was a really nice holiday. And then my family party, we always do the Sunday after or the weekend after Christmas for my dad's side of the family. So on New Year's Day, we'll actually be doing like our Christmas party, which is nice because we haven't done it in like 3 years because of COVID and stuff. So it'll be the first time a lot of us are in the same room. So it'll be good. It'll be good. And we have like we do like a white elephant silly gift exchange, and I found one of those mini marshmallow shooters, and I'm so excited about it.
Anytime I hear Marshmallow Shooter, I just go to that Parks and Rec scene.
Oh yeah, yeah, a classic.
Yeah. And anytime I think of White Elephant, I go to The Office. So 2 Greg Daniels shows just eating up my brain. And when we start talking Bon Jovi, I went to It's Always Sunny with Mr. Bongiorni. I'd like to speak to Mr. John
Oh
Bongiorni.
yeah, yeah. I gotta get back into some like just banger after banger with It's Always Sunny, and so I always go back to like kind of the first seasons that I got really into it. But there's so many good ones that I'm like, I need to go back and rewatch.
I feel
Just
like
rewatch
season
other
3 on.
seasons because
Season 3 on,
season 3 on,
season
like,
1 and 2 have a couple episodes that are okay, but season 3 on, they figure out who everyone is.
Like my favorite, man, I can't even say what is my favorite It's Always Sunny episode, but like Frank's Little Beauties is way up there for me. And the Best Bar Awards is way up there for me. Like that run, the Dead Hooker episode is my sister's favorite. So like we used to just like binge watch that whole, because of course Lydia's like dark ass sense of humor, right? But like that
the
whole
ending to
run
that
of
episode where the hooker's just dead in the hallway.
Oh my god, it's like it's perfect. And the musical is in that same
Nightman
episode
Cometh?
too. The Nightman Cometh. Yeah. So that whole stretch is like, God, if I just am like, I'm gonna sit and watch 2 hours of it. But yeah, it's so good. We got so many people in the chat, including Tony Z of the B Show. Nice to see you guys in there. Thank you for stopping by. I love it when Tony stops by for real because we have fun.
Especially because he didn't watch the wrestling show at all. So it's actually kind of like very appreciative.
I mean, there was some WWE programming this week where it was very tempting to not watch and do a podcast. So taped episodes are just hard. And I would say that's even true. Rampage is used to being taped, but like the effort they put into live Rampages is definitely super, super noticeable. So I think just a lot of taped programming is hard in the wrestling space. But tonight's episode of Dynamite, I thought was a fucking banger, man. Like I would say that first hour 20 probably it's some of the best in ring that we've seen. I've not been like into this best of 7 thing, but out of all the matches they've had, this one was definitely my favorite. Danielson and Ethan Page was everything I wanted it to be. But we're gonna get to all that and more. But we're gonna start with Rampage of last week, Ryan. I'll run down the card and you can kind of chime in. I've already talked about this at Fight Club, and we don't need to go through the whole card. Everybody's seen it by now who's probably gonna see it. But this was a pretty fun episode. I'm glad Tony's in the chat because we got not a tournament, but a battle royal. The Three Kings Christmas Casino Trios Royal, which I loved the name of because it made me think of the Fun Run in The Office. We were talking sitcom references before, but what is I don't even remember it.
It's like this. It's like a paragraph, and then just at the very end, for the cure.
For the cure, like the rabies pro-am celebrity fun run, whatever. For the cure. That's how this felt. But like I don't know. I felt like that was very fun and intentional. But I really liked that they gave this to Top Flight and AR Fox. Like I thought that was a very, very fun move. It was for $300,000, which was, I think, a lot of people's justification for House of Black not being in it was that they don't really care about money. They're creepy weirdos who are here to run roughshod over everything. But I still kind of wanted to see them in it, but at the same time, you can't have them lose if they're going to be in it. So those kind of situations, I feel like kind of handcuff you a little bit. But this was a whole bunch of fun. I loved that ending stretch. Like, these are kind of clusterfucks, admittedly. Like, I feel like a lot of the time. But overall, like, for this many guys being in a battle royal, I thought this was one of the cleaner ones. I thought it was really good. And I loved Claudio versus kind of like the AR Fox trio and the Martin brothers specifically. Like, they just did really, really cool work. And we're going to talk about Top Flight later today, too. But, like, I thought that was fun because Blackpool Combat Club doesn't really gain anything from it. I don't think any of these other teams necessarily gain a ton. Again, would love to see, like, Dark Order stuff moving along and getting some wins here, but they didn't have to do that necessarily in this spot. Love seeing Trent and Chucky T in action too. Like this was a whole bunch of fun. I have no problem with this. I think it just being for a winner's purse is a blast as well. What did you think of the Three Kings Christmas Casino Trios Royal for the Cure?
Yeah, Matt, what did you think?
I
Oh
love
my gosh. Hi. I'm sorry, I was
Did you-
reading down my notes and you're here.
I was wondering why there was absolutely no reaction.
I figured she was reading something because Kate usually pops when I show up. So
I do. Hi, Matt. How are you? How was
hello,
your
I had
holiday?
to stop by on this Christmas edition or post-Christmas edition.
Hell yeah, we
to say
appreciate
hello.
you. You sound a little hoarse, if I might say. You
Yeah.
feeling okay over there, buddy?
Yeah, you know.
Working in the cold?
Yeah, working in the cold. Just came
Yeah.
home, took a hot shower, put on my pajamas, and I decided to pop in before the wife comes home.
Are those dolphins' pajamas?
They are Dolphins pajamas.
Are they a Christmas gift?
No, they were a birthday gift.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. From the wife or from someone else?
Yes, from the wife.
I love it.
I hope nobody else is buying me pajamas.
I really wish it was a onesie.
It's not, but it is a full like.
Model foot. You look smashing, darling. Smashing. Oh, I love it. Eric Freeze mentioning in the chat, what are you guys gonna do about Tua, man? This is
Well,
sad.
if he wants to have a functioning life at 40, he should probably retire from football.
Yeah. Oh.
Oh
sad.
god, that poor guy. He just
They say once you get one, you can be like way more susceptible to them, and oh my god.
He's up to 3.
3 in one season, right?
Yes.
Not great.
that second one is 100% because they didn't take care of that first one.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
How you guys
Real
doing?
quick.
Good.
Real quick,
How
I just
are
want
you?
to thank Josh Mitchison Radio. He said first time tuning in at 3:30 a.m. wherever he is, but we're entertaining. Really appreciate you.
Hold on, I can do math. He's in the UK.
Dang, well done, Matt.
I only know that because Kieran's in the UK, my bread club counterpart. So that's 5 hours. He
Oh,
might be
okay.
further than the UK, actually. That's 6.
Yeah, geez, dang. Thank you so much for tuning in at 3:30 in the morning. Appreciate it.
And some schmuck named Anthony said, "Happy New Year, everyone! For the Mark Order gang, have some things we're getting in the mail for Christmas, but we have to open them on air." I don't know who that schmuck is, but thank you, Anthony.
That's very kind of you.
Oh, he is in the UK. I was right.
Very nice. Very
How you
nice.
guys doing? How was your Christmas? Did you guys already have this conversation?
A little bit, but that's okay. We're glad you're here to have it with us.
Sorry.
Did you? No, you're fine.
We didn't
Did
have it
you-
with you though.
Yeah, you're usually host of the most over there. Did you have everybody over on Christmas Day?
We did not. I actually did second Christmas this afternoon before work.
Oh wow! All right.
What is
Alright.
what is second Christmas?
Well, so on Christmas I went to my father's and brother's, and then we were supposed to go see Rhiannon's sister, but the kids had the flu.
Ugh.
And Rhiannon's other sister had to pick up her stepkids on the day after Christmas, so it just worked where everyone was together today.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. You.
But if
got
you
to-
listen to the Monday night show, nothing is ever easy. So we had a very eventful Christmas
oh
with furnaces and broken pipes and
no!
late night cleanups. It was.
Rough. Oh, I'm sorry.
It wasn't at my house and it wasn't at my father's house. So
That's great for you. That's good.
yeah, it was my uncle. The origin house of Nellie.
Oh, I didn't
Which is
know.
still
I didn't know
which
Nellie
is-
had a previous
yes.
familial.
Nellie
owner.
came from my uncle who passed a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
And he lives like the block behind my parents. So my cousins who were supposed to be taking care of the house are on the West Coast. And when the freeze came, they were like, "Oh, hey, can someone go like Christmas Eve?" They're like, "Hey, can you go turn the heat on?" And my brother went over there and the heat wouldn't turn on. So then Rhiannon knows how to do the HVAC stuff. So we went over after we did breakfast and presents, and she got the furnace on. And then throughout the house, there were little post-it notes that said like water off, water off, water off. So we were like, oh, maybe the water's off. And then at 6:30, my brother called me in a complete panic. And he's like, the pipe burst, there's fucking water everywhere.
Oh no!
So we grabbed some Flex Seal and a mop and a bucket and
Jeez.
fucking flew over there and spent a
And
couple
in
hours
the
cleaning up.
cold, it was so damn cold too. Oh no.
Yeah. Well, the problem was the pipes were frozen, and then they turned the heat on, and then the house heated up, and then
And
the
then the
pipe
pipes, yeah.
unfroze, and it then burst.
Oh,
So whatever. It was a day.
it was a day. Well, I'm glad you at least got to have second Christmas because then you
Oh, it
got
was
to
a
probably
blast
enjoy
today.
yourself.
The kids
Good.
are so much fun. Uncle Matt's in the house, so
Hell yeah.
look out,
Did you get them
people.
stuff?
We always get them stuff, but we do the gimmick where we just give them like little gifts, and then we have Rhiannon made banks for them, so we just put money in their bank every year.
Oh, that's
And the
awesome.
thing's like painted so they can't see inside of it, so they think it's some shitty furniture until it's like on their 17th birthday we give them a hammer and we're like, hey, just break this open.
Oh my god, that's awesome. That's like
Right?
double fun because you get to break something and then you find out there's money in it.
Yeah, we've been putting money in it for 17 years for like Christmas and Thanksgiving and your birthday and like Easter. We just put fucking and then it's
Oh,
good
that
fun.
rules. Very cool.
I've just gone to giving my nieces and nephews money at this point.
That's all they want.
Once
It
they get to
takes the fun out of it, right? A little.
yeah, but once they get to a certain age, like, what are you getting them? Like when they were young, I got them gifts, but now like one's a teenager and stuff like that. It gets just, and I like if there's video games and stuff. Like I'm the uncle who, like, since I don't have kids of my own, I don't make them wait during the year if there's something they want. Like if there's a video game, I'll get it for them. So like I have nothing when it comes time for Christmas to be like, here.
Gotcha.
When we switched to the money age, like my mom would start giving it to us in like absurd ways of like tying it to the end of balloons, or she would do like single dollars all taped together and you had to pull them out of the thing. So she like also similarly, and I agree. If I give someone money, I also try to give them like something else with it. Like you gotta have something to unwrap. That's how
Right?
I'm one of those. Yeah, I'm one of those.
I like your background, Ryan.
New Year break. I'm in Times Square.
New
Very
you.
quiet for
festive.
being in Times Square, though.
It is very chill, and that confetti just frozen in time.
It's so
I think-
cold out that it literally froze in the air.
It's frozen.
It looks good, buddy.
It does look good.
Appreciate it. Apparently, Josh in the chat does the same thing. Does that thing that you were talking about, Matt? Where they?
That's really cool. I want someone to do that for me in my 30s. So when I get
Nice.
to like 50, I can just like find it out.
Yes,
all
but
the
we need to
time.
up the amount though, so that
Excuse me,
that,
my
like
wife is phoning me. I will return very shortly. I have to remove myself.
No, go for it. We'll keep working down the old Rampage card.
I liked that Top Flight won this match. Yes, I'm just going right back in. We're not
Good. No, that's perfect.
I think it was a nice showing for them, and it was a surprise. Would not have predicted them to be the one to come out of this winning. It didn't hurt anyone to lose this. It only helped Top Flight to win. So it was a best. It's why like a battle royal sometimes works if done right. Where like it doesn't matter who loses, only matters who wins. So them winning was a nice touch, and I hope they I like Top Flight as a tag team, but if they need trios, throwing AR Fox in there to keep that as a trio is a very exciting trio.
Yeah, and it's a fun way to introduce AR Fox, I think, too. I forget what it was, but because now I'm thinking about when I talked about this like 3 days ago. But Tony Nese's elimination was really, really fun. But now I can't remember the spot. I just have that written down in my notes. So there you go.
Eric Freeds wants to know, is there a Mark Order piggy bank? Yes, it's prowrestlingtees.com/Mark Order pod.
There you
You
go.
can grab one of our brand new t-shirts, and there's a couple double-sided gimmicks in there too.
There
Don't
are. Yeah.
Don't wait for a sale. Come on, this is long overdue. We're like 92 episodes into the Mark Order podcast. All right, you've been everyone's been wanting shirts. Don't wait for a fucking Pro Wrestling Tee sale. Just go get a shirt now. You got that Christmas money, honey.
That
You got
Christmas
it.
money,
I know
honey.
you got it out there. You're listening. You're like, man, I got to cover my nipples with something. You should cover your nipples with a Mark Order podcast. Kate, I got to be 100% honest with you. I had a weird fucking dream about you.
Okay.
Part of the
Hold on.
reason why I wanted to come on tonight.
Before this conversation continues, I want to say that comment followed. You gotta cover your nipples. I just want to point out
That
the dream
is-
comment followed. You gotta cover your nipples.
that
so
is-
continue.
Of note.
I don't know. What was this? This was Sunday into Monday. So Monday morning, I woke up. I had this dream, right? I had a dream. Kate was involved. Kate in the dream was a head, nipples, and legs. That's it. No breasts, no vagina, just
nips.
Kate's
to
head,
legs.
nipples, legs. She was coming to tell me that Sam Houston had a problem with me from what I said on the podcast, and we needed to go to the diner with Sam Houston's handlers, except the guy didn't look like, the guy was a big fat guy. He didn't look like Sam Houston. So we went to the diner to try and hash things out. And Kate still was just nipples and legs and a head at the diner. And I thought it was the weirdest thing ever, but nobody said anything about it. I don't know why. I haven't talked to Kate in a week. I don't know what brought about this. It's the weirdest fucking dream.
I'm so confused about how my body is connected to each other. So was it my head and my legs were connected and I just had two nips on the side? Where were my nipples if I didn't
I think your nipples are where they're supposed to be.
But then where did my legs?
I don't know, man. It was a really weird dream.
A weird dream.
No me and CM Punk at the White Castle post office, but it was up there.
That one had so many layers. That was so fun.
It was weird. I don't know why. And then the cat woke me up, so I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was a conclusion. I don't know where Sam Houston came from.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. Where did Sam Houston come from?
Why we had to go to a diner. Oh, and I was sleeping in a hotel and you came and woke me up and you were like, we got to go to the diner. I don't know how you got in my room.
Yeah, I mean, that makes me feel like there was an ROH sleepover.
And I was like, what's up? And you're like, Sam Houston's mad at you. He's got heat with you because of what you said on the podcast.
I so love that I'm like, we got to squash.
And we walked, and I know we walked to the diner. We didn't drive to the diner. We walked to the diner.
We walked to the diner.
It was real weird. I don't know what was going on.
So
I don't think Sunday was Christmas, right? Yeah. So I wasn't drinking.
That's very, very odd.
Yeah, it was weird.
That's a weird one.
I wanted to share with you.
I appreciate you sharing. Your dreams are a trip, bro.
Hold on. I just want to bring up a couple comments related to this. Matthew Plus, what the fuck? Josh Mitchison, what the fuck have I passed out? Asian Joe, the fuck fever dream was this?
I don't know. That's a weird one. And also,
Matthew
I'm just
Plus
so confused
over here, normalize keeping shit to yourself. You clearly don't listen to the Shining Wizards or the early editions of this podcast. There's no filter.
There's never been a filter.
There's no shame. It wasn't like a weird sexual fantasy about Kate, but Kate was in my dream and it was weird. And I don't know why. So I wanted to share.
No, that's weird. That's very weird.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
And also, why was I urgently trying to squash a beef between you and Sam Houston?
Don't know. I really don't know.
Very weird.
We need to send you to a team of psychologists.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Or just a dream interpreter guy.
Maybe. I don't know.
Slow no,
my wife says my
an
sleep
HR
apnea
conversation.
is terrible.
No, I don't give a shit. Please.
Chris Mueller is just more obsessed that he saw me without a hat because he missed the fact that Matt dreamed about Kate as a head, nipples, and legs. That was it.
Yeah, I don't know how it worked. It just worked.
Yeah, I don't understand
It's kind of like Kate was like the invisible woman, but had a very bad power, and it only made parts of her body invisible.
Well, if we've seen anybody's nipples on the show, it's Matt's. That's why I'm so confused.
Yeah, again, I don't know. I really don't have an answer.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna Google sleep interpretations of shit.
I mean, I have really fucked up dreams, but that is more fucked up than anything I think I've dreamed.
I mean, it was just weird. I don't know what.
Well, that version of fucked up, where it's so weird, I can't quite understand what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Did you guys get any wrestling related gifts for Christmas?
I did not. I did not get any wrestling. Nobody in my life cares about wrestling outside of the people I do podcasts.
You don't no one in your life is you got your Amazon wish list and you just put shit on it that you don't necessarily need immediately, but if someone was looking for a gift, it's just here, buy this, because I got I just fill it with murder books and wrestling books and action figures and I got it all. I got the Moxley book. I'm very excited about that. I got a book about All Japan from 2000. I got a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat figure.
Oh,
I got the NWO Funko Pops.
All right, very fun.
The Moxley book is very good. I read that. I told Kate before he came on, my family decided at some point when I got, I think, college age, that Ryan's gifts at Christmas would just be updating his wardrobe. Otherwise, it'll never happen.
Oh, it's no fun.
It's no fun, but it's practical, and I enjoy it. I will say, I will be getting sunglasses from my parents. That's a fun gift, but they have to be prescription, so I haven't gotten them yet because I got to get my eyes looked at.
All right.
Look, I
Some
also
jerk
put
off
like
stole them out of my car, my old ones.
I put like soap and body wash and all that stuff too, because I'm like, load me up at Christmas so I don't have to buy anything the rest of the year.
There it is.
I'm hooked up.
I always do an end of the year, usually with like money that I end up getting for Christmas. I always do an end of the year like wrestling merch order. I'm definitely gonna get myself some FTR stuff because I love all the Living Legend shit is awesome. Like I love a lot of that stuff. I'll probably get some Blackpool Combat Club stuff too. Like I really like some of the merch that's out there. Because it just looks like cool merch. It doesn't look like gimmicky wrestling shit. So I will probably do that. But you guys know I'm not in the figure game, so
No, but there's other things you can, get.
yeah.
You
I mean,
like
here's
to
the deal.
read, right? Wrestling books. There's a lot of good wrestling books out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, chances are I've read them. But if I were to get figures, I would just be then producing the Mark Order figure wrestling show where I just have my figures wrestle each other.
There you go. That could be bonus content.
Wait,
You can get into
didn't you-
murder.
You could get
I do. I read. I mean, I've read all that stuff. Like I said, I've read most of the wrestling books.
Okay. Anthony Zacco's still awake at 12:47.
I know.
Get
we
the
love
Bruno book.
That
I
I
haven't read
actually
the Bruno
I would
book.
love to read.
That
I
I don't have
actually
to read.
really would.
The
Like I said, I
whole,
like the
first
Mox
three
one. I think he was
chapters
very
is about
honest.
him like spitting on his mother's mustache when it caught fire from when she was cooking.
Yeah, see, that's a read. That's a read.
Good read.
No one said Bruno was the smartest man.
Well, you know those Italian women with those thick mustaches.
I miss you. I miss you being here.
I miss being here too.
I believe it. I believe it.
There's no value to me once you guys start talking Dynamite because I'm like I gotta go
Did
watch
you watch
it.
Rampage?
What was Rampage? Was Friday? No, what was Friday?
Okay.
What did I do Friday? I worked
It's
Friday.
Christmas Eve. So
Yeah,
you're
no,
probably
they
just
put
busy.
me at the
Well,
restaurant because my
Well, let's ask though. You may not have watched, but we'll get your opinion on them winning in the trios battle royal where they had a bunch of trios teams in there for $300,000. The
That's a
team
lot of
that won was Top Flight and AR Fox.
nice.
Yeah, it's
So
a
you're
good
good,
call,
like-
right?
Yes, because the Elite and the Death Triangle thing is going to end, right? I'm assuming they're going 7 games, right? Because there's no other reason to do it. To put eyes on the trios, division, and what better team to be waiting for whoever wins that.
Yeah,
Oh
that could be a
God.
really fun program. Yeah, jump right into it.
Right?
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, it just surprised me. It was like a pleasant surprise, especially because it was just for money. So it was like, it's not like anybody loses anything or they're trying to set up some major story here between two teams or whatever. So I kind of dug that. It's like 300
But you
grand.
have established now Top Flight and AR Fox as a team that's the least competitive, so they can go have a match with either Death Triangle or Elite. That's just going to be insane because
Yeah.
Right. And
Those
then
three-
Death
those-
Triangle didn't Top Flight have a match tonight against the Blackpool Combat Club?
and it was very good.
I
You
bet
are
it was.
in for a treat.
I
for
can't
tonight's
wait.
Dynamite.
I-
Yeah,
I will say, Matt, the first hour 15 of Dynamite tonight flies, and it is some of the best wrestling they put on all
I
year.
just hope you were going to say Dynamite.
it
I
was
hope you're gonna say
it was Dynamite. It was.
I'm
Dynamite.
sorry. You know
Hey.
what? I'm actually disappointed in myself.
What are your thoughts on these Sasha Banks rumors? I'm just gonna pick your brain in general about stuff.
I'm very excited about it. I have to figure out how I'm going to do this. How I'm going to stay up.
Oh, for Wrestle Kingdom?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
What time does it come
boy.
on here?
2 a.m. 2 a.m. is the pre-show.
I did. It's just one night this year, right?
This year
No.
is one night. There is something they have as Wrestle Kingdom 2, and it's like January 21st. But I just think they're just using the name to sell the event.
Oh, okay.
That's
'Cause
what I
was gonna
thought.
say,
Okay, I get you.
they did bill 2 nights, but I guess that makes sense that they're just going to
Yeah, like it's not like it was last year where it's back to back. This is just one night, like top to bottom, balls out. Me and my fine British friend just finished our Wrestle Kingdom 17 preview. We were joined by Kevin Kelly, half of the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, Francisco Akira, and
Oh, yeah.
Lord Gideon Gray joined us. So that dropped this morning.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay, I'll go read.
Everyone go
that out.
check out Bread Club on Fightful Overbooked. That's what Matt's talking about.
Oh yeah,
They
sorry,
are-
I should have.
No, it's one of the premier. It's
that's
it's
good.
one of the best podcasts you can listen to for all things New Japan Pro Wrestling. I
It
don't
really
watch
is.
as much.
You and Kira.
That's why I don't remember my dream, Kate. I had to wake up at 7:00 on Monday morning because we had to interview Francisco Akira, and he was in Japan. So,
man.
so I had to wake up at 7 to do an 8:00 interview with him, and it was like afternoon for Kieran, and it was 10:00 at night for Francisco.
That's
Akira.
crazy. Oh my god, I forgot. So you were balancing 3 time zones for that.
I did not.
Damn.
Thanks. Kieran set all that up because the time zone shit fucks my brain up, man.
And he's probably
Matt would end up
used to
screwing it up
'cause
so that he has everyone else in the middle of the night and only Matt's on.
100%. But
Kieran
Kieran
was
probably
like-
has to do that all the time because he's in the UK too.
Yeah, but
like,
just
if
with
he's
Japan,
there.
not with me.
Yeah. Oh man, you guys have a good dynamic. I really like that show.
The
You guys
US
have a
to
good
UK is like 5-6 hours. I think that's what Josh Mission Radio said. He was in the UK too, but it's like 5
Mhm.
hours. So
Dang.
through Japan in there, it was So I'm fucking pumped for Wrestle Kingdom. I think the Sasha Banks thing will be great for New Japan.
Yeah. Do you think
Oh,
she's showing up?
Cabbage Sensei is over in Japan too.
Dang. Thanks
It's
for
one
tuning
way
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
We-
were actually in Japan. That's awesome.
We're at the Mark Order International today.
I wish I knew you were in Japan. Kevin Kelly wants me to make a fat head for Kieran to have it in the crowd.
Oh.
That's
so
really funny.
I know, and I'm going to make it happen too because I am the maniac.
You
You are
are.
the maniac.
It might not happen this year, but it's going to happen. I've already
Oh,
hit
yeah.
up
But
Bullet Club Rob, who's in Japan for Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
is he
and
really?
He
Is
is.
Tom there too? Did
Well-
someone else?
I know Milwaukee Tom had
Matt,
talked about possibly
Matt.
going, but I don't know if he's going. Cabbage Sensei, I know that because he's in our Discord, and he said he bought a ticket before the Osprey Omega match was announced. I think he just brought it he was like, fuck it, I'll just buy a ticket. And then all these awesome things are happening now.
That's awesome. Oh yeah. I remember seeing that in the Discord actually. That's awesome. Good for you.
I
man.
didn't. I'll be honest. I'm in the Discord almost daily, but if there's a lot that I missed, it's never being read.
Throwback.
It's just
Yep.
yeah.
That
But
was awesome.
I'm going to hype up the Bread Club since Matt is here. As someone who does not regularly watch New Japan, that is me. It is a very fun and very easy listen, and it actually, if you ever want to casually watch New Japan, Bread Club helps you do it because you understand things that you would not otherwise understand.
Oh, thank
I'm-
you, Ryan. That's very kind of you. Kieran is the brains of the project.
No, stop. You guys, it's a
shit
really
ton.
good dynamic, serious.
I don't know,
Sincerely,
dude. He went through the whole Wrestle Kingdom main event scene for all the way back to like 2. Dude's good. I love it.
That rules.
We make a good team.
You do. You really do. I'm so intrigued to see if New Japan hops on like Honor Club or anything. Or
I
like
hope it would make Honor Club so much better if they did get like a New Japan, even if it's just New Japan Strong, just some other thing that I would then be like, okay, here's 2 things I can watch.
yeah. It'd be good. It'd be good for both of them. They can make it work. Dang.
Do you think Sasha's going to be the mystery partner for Saraya?
I do because I feel like at this point they would have announced it if it wasn't going to because people's expectations are going to be extremely
Oh no,
high.
that's not possible, right? It's the 4th.
No, it's the week after the 4th.
Oh, it's
right?
the 11th in Los
I
Angeles.
think it's the 11th in Los Angeles. The 4th, they're unveiling the new design, the new set.
no Kenny Omega.
I really hope it's the same set with just one very small minor change that they hype up huge.
That would be actually hilarious. But because they have this new production guy, I'm guessing that's not the case. Because they've cleaned up like some of their like hype videos and their intro and stuff. So I don't know. I think it has to be Sasha, and if it's not, you better announce next week who it's gonna be, because I think people's expectations are
Or
now
if you don't announce
through the roof.
who it is, you have to have someone associated with AEW come out. It doesn't even have to be on TV. They could do it in an interview or do it anywhere else. But someone associated with AEW come out and definitively say, this is not going to be Sasha Banks. Or this is not her.
Yeah, but you can't even do that because you're gonna swerve. People will be like, "Oh, it's a swerve," and then they'll still be let down. But I think it is. I find it very interesting that the reports were that WWE and Sasha were very far apart on money. I think she probably has the biggest crossover potential of anybody. I feel like she could make you more money than Charlotte, Becky, or Bayley, which was kind of interesting. But I think the growth we've seen in the women's division from when we were there for Grand Slam to now has been like, it's been on fire, man. And I think this is like a cool environment for Sasha to come into. And she clearly has aspirations of like music and entertainment and stuff outside of it. Like AEW is such a friendly environment for that, it seems like. So I don't know. I'm trying not to work myself into but I really think it could be.
So Gordon asked, what if it's a returning Thunder Rosa? Which is Kate's point, and I agree with it, is returning Thunder Rosa is great if you've established it's not Sasha. Like if people aren't hyping themselves up for Sasha, a returning Thunder Rosa is a lot of fun.
It's going to feel only like, oh, it's only Thunder Rosa coming back if they don't announce it ahead of time.
Yeah. And partially it sucks because AEW hasn't been the one to hype that up. They're not the ones to be like, it's her, but they've done nothing to downplay it either. Because they could have, I know people could a swerve, but there's enough out there you could have been laying down hints the whole way. Like, it's definitely not going to be her. Like,
they were just so careful when they sent Toni Storm out there to be like, she's not going to be cleared by then. She's not going to be cleared by then, that I felt like they were like, this is a swerve, but also pay attention to this part of it. That would be a huge deal if it was her. And I also think they've certainly timed Jade Cargill being 50-0 with an arrival of Sasha Banks if they wanted to have Sasha dethrone her. Like, she's at 46-0, I think. Man, you could
pump out 4 wins. Right? Well, she's got a match on Friday.
She's got a match on Friday. Like, the timing of that is starting to feel suspicious. Jade went out there in her like dollar bills gear a few weeks ago. Like, I don't know. To me, it feels like it's Mercedes and she's coming for that secondary.
And I hate to say it, TBS, that boss show.
Oh, it's perfect. No, it's right there. That bitch show to that boss show.
But it is also very cool.
There's a lot of spoons in the porridge, as I like to say, because what if the New Japan now has this women's division, right? Would it be upsetting if Carrie showed up, the IWGP Women's Heavyweight Champion, formerly known as Kairi Sane in the WWE?
Your favorite.
I hate the fucking pirate. I really.
It's all because if Sasha wasn't sitting out there, she's about the level of star that anyone else just feels like a disappointment because she's that big for the division. Because Kairi Sane coming out there, I'd be fine with in a normal. Like I happen to enjoy her. I think she'd be great in that division. But again, when everyone is setting themselves up for Sasha, it's kind of like the whole if Punk hadn't walked out type deal. Like, granted, they did that, but like when you have such high expectations, anyone else just is a
right.
failure.
I think the perfect example is when they unveiled it as Christian.
Yeah,
right? We were all we let our minds run wild, which is not a bad thing. But then you can't be disappointed if it's like I think me and Kate were watching it, and I was like, "What if it's Okada?" Like, you just let your fucking mind go crazy, but you can't be mad at the end of the day.
No, and I've actually really liked Christian's run, but you're right in that Sasha is right now probably, unless you're counting like I don't count Brock or Cena as free agents. Sasha's the biggest free agent man or woman regardless. So if you're not delivering the biggest one, you have to then like temper expectations. And I think you've done so much repair work for the past 4 months on your women's division that would be like really not great. Really not great. So, but I think a returning Thunder Rosa would be awesome. I think a returning Toni Storm would be awesome. I think Kyrie would be a lot of fun. But I really think they have to get out ahead of it or people are going to be so let down because she's such... It's funny, like hearing fans that are just a little bit younger than I am, like women's wrestling fans, like Sasha and Bayley is the match that they look to, like CM Punk looks to Brett and Owen or whatever. Like it's a really, really, really big deal of like what that match meant to young women's wrestling fans. So it's like that's a big deal to be carrying that around.
99% of everything before that was fucking awful.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
match...
truly, like other than what Trish and Lita, which I feel like
there was such a Trish and Lita was fantastic, but that was like 2004, and then for the next 10,
decade?
12 years, there was the Bellas are great fucking reality TV stars. They fucking suck shit in the ring.
Yeah.
The Divas Champions.
They were great for what they were asked to do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's what they were asked to do was 2-minute matches that didn't involve any like real storytelling or in-ring caliber.
Pure magic. What?
And like even right, you had like Beth Phoenix and you had Natalia, but like they didn't do anything with it until kind of AJ Lee.
You had 2 women in the entire division that could really go.
Yes, they were, but they had to be presented as divas, as sex objects, as fucking, whatever.
It wasn't until like AJ and Paige and then the 4 horsewomen that it felt like.
Don't ever say the 4 horsewomen.
I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it just to annoy you.
And Doc Mueller in chat's pointing out Mickie James had a good run. There was a couple, like you could, but here's the problem. We can pick out 2 or 3 women that had a good run over like a 15-year period.
And so like Michelle McCool did some cool stuff, right? Like,
it's in her name.
What'd you say?
It's in her name.
It is in her name. Well played. Well,
I hate to interrupt. My wife is home, so I have to go prepare.
No, go. We'll talk about wrestling anyway.
But I did. I'm sorry. I hate to cut my part of the conversation. You guys can continue it, please. The interaction is great in the chat. And I just want to see your lovely faces and say happy holidays, and I hope everyone has a happy new year. And stay tuned because you never know when I'm going to do another run-in my pajamas.
Hell yeah.
I love you guys. I miss you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'm going to go eat dinner and then watch Dynamite.
Hell yeah. It's so good. You're going for a treat.
I'm excited.
It's a good one tonight.
Good night, guys. I love you.
Night. Love you too.
I will, to finish this conversation, because I am into it now. Doc Mueller also points out Molly Holly and Victoria, but they all, to me, Molly Holly and Victoria fit in the Trish Stratus Lita thing, which was all like end of attitude into, what was it? Ruthless Aggression era. But after that, it very much just got worse.
Yeah, it's just so hard because, like, right, you know Allie Cease now a little bit. Like, she's the biggest Sasha stan in the world. It's like cool. It's very cool to see kids like 10 years younger than me or whatever that have had a women's feud and women's wrestlers to look up to who have had sustained success and been treated with like some respect in the wrestling industry.
They've had women in the industry whose total like the reason they're popular in the industry is totally based on their wrestling and not what selling their bodies.
Yeah, but like even
if they want to, they can. But like I'm saying, like
Mickie James wasn't that. I would argue Molly Holly wasn't that. Like there were women who weren't doing that, but they were just there was no emphasis placed on what they were doing. Mickie James is like one of the most egregious. Like
she was never appreciated through most of her wrestling because she could go and they just never let her.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying, like
are we gonna see? We were talking about this a little bit the other day. Like, are we gonna see a generation of women's wrestlers now that are doing spots from that match? like is a really cool thing to consider. Like there hasn't been a group that that has had that to point to where like doing a crossface and stepping on someone's fingers is like a really nasty, cruel thing, right? We talked about that a little bit before. Like, so I don't know. Like, I think it's important to realize that Sasha Banks carries that weight of like a lot of people look at that match and say it's the best women's wrestling match of all time. I think pretty much everyone puts it in their top 5 or top 3. I mean, I feel like that's
Listen,
indisputable,
that match can go
at least for
against any
American
match.
television.
That match can go
Of
against any
any,
match.
sure. For sure.
That was when I was. What year was that? That was 2015.
That sounds right. Yeah, Takeover Brooklyn, right? So yeah, I think 2015.
So that's when I was starting to really get back into it, and
That
that was
made
one
me
of the matches.
subscribe to the network. Like
That was
that.
one of the matches you told me to watch.
Yeah.
And so I watched it, and it was like holy, because the psychology they had in that match was just
Oh,
so good.
that was
Of
some of my
like going for the
favorite.
hand and making Bailey this believable baby face coming back, and she just wouldn't be beaten, and like, and I can see how that would inspire an entire generation of boys and girls to be like, hey, I want to go wrestle. So you're right, she is at the, and the thing is, she's still young, so she's at that level, but she's still so young. Like what she has to offer any company, whether it be AEW, New Japan, or back to WWE, is like the fact that they don't view her at that level when it comes to money of like Charlotte or Becky. I don't understand, because listen, that's not a knock on them. They all deserve to be paid shit tons, but she deserves to be with them. Like she can do everything they do as well, if not better in some ways. So
Yeah, to me,
how
my trumpet on this has been, I think I kind of always say like my favorite one of the 4 horsewomen, I'll use that just to piss off Matt now, is the whatever one I was just watching. Like they're all so great and they're all so different. I kind of lean into Becky and Bailey because I just love the way that they're ring generals. But if I'm looking at it from a company perspective, Sasha Banks has the most crossover star power, I would say, maybe in the entire industry next to Roman Reigns. Indisputably, I think for women, of where she's been, where she could go, the things she could do, her connections in the industry, her cousin is freaking Snoop Dogg. Like, what I don't get is if you're looking at it from a dollars and cents perspective, I think she might be your most profitable asset of any of the 4 horsewomen. And I think it's silly to not view her as on the same level of pay, because I think she might clear the amount of money you could make even more. Like,
it's funny. I think I'm with you, but I tend to lean Bailey and Becky overall, but I think that's because of the 4. They're the 2 that can float, as Bailey has proven and Becky's proven. They float between characters a little bit better, and I tend to like people who are able to completely change up who they are. Charlotte and Sasha are who they are, no matter if they're face or heel. It's just a slight, which is a talent in and of itself. But I just kind of like how Bailey had to completely reinvent her character, and she still somehow did it smoothly. Like she didn't have to betray who she was before. She did it so naturally, and Becky just keeps doing it all the time. So, but realistically, I actually, and this is gonna be weird, and if she goes back to WWE, I will never criticize her. Go do it. Like she's got a ton of value there. She actually has more value, I think, to AEW, simply because they would have finally got someone of getting Paige was huge. Saraya was huge. Getting Tony Storm was huge. If they got Sasha, Jesus Christ, the value she had. So like a value added, I get it. WWE has 3 of the 4 horsewomen.
right.
AEW has none. So like there's a bigger ad there, but either way, she should get paid by someone. And it's great that New Japan is the company at least that first gets her, because they're trying to build up that women's thing now. And that's a good person to say, hey, look at us.
Yeah. I mean, my goodness. And on top of that, you know what I was thinking about when we were talking about, I was thinking about the 4 horsewomen, and I was thinking about ring generals. And I don't want to leave Charlotte out of that conversation either, because I think if we've seen anything, her matches with Ronda Rousey were pretty good. And if Ronda's not in there with a ring general, I think we've learned very quickly she needs a ring general to pull off a good match. So that's not a knock on Charlotte. I just feel like I've seen Becky and Bailey do it to a different degree. But I was also thinking, I was like, damn, you know what? Like, credit to Britt Baker and to Sheeta a little bit. I don't want to say a lesser extent, because of any reason other than I think Sheeta has just had more experience and came from a different world in this. Britt Baker never had the let me grow as a wrestler with a ring general thing. She was never, ever like brought along by another experienced women's ring general, where I think, and not to take anything away from Bianca, she could do things that other women's wrestlers on the planet simply can't do because of her athleticism and strength. But like, she was raised with an incredible Sasha Banks story right off the bat. She jumped into a long-term feud with Becky. Like, she had that. Britt Baker never had that shot. Like, she never, it was just like, you're the star of the women's division after Sheeta. I think Sheeta just came with so much more experience. So is a little bit of a different thing for her. But like, Britt has grown tremendously in that regard. And she did not have that. Like, she did not have the ecosystem, even that's there now. There's Madison Rain, Saraya's there. Like, but it's it really made me appreciate that about Britt, because she was also doing that during the pandemic and stuff. But anyway.
No, I agree, because she had to carry when you like you said, Bianca can stand it. Could now she doesn't have to, but even if she wanted to, if she was in a feud today, she could stand in a ring with a handful of women in the WWE and say, "I'm not feeling," for whatever reason she's not feeling herself, and they could carry the feud.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Bianca obviously doesn't need it; she's that level of star. But I'm just saying, Britt only recently has gotten people in where she could stand in the ring across them and say, "You can carry the feud."
Yes.
Otherwise, she had to carry every feud, because even Sheeta, I love Sheeta, but they didn't let her be Sheeta for a lot of her run. She wasn't allowed to talk. So anything that she had to do, it was through, okay, Britt, you have to carry this. Nyla was not allowed to be Nyla for most of her run. So like, it was always put on Britt that no matter who's in that ring against you, up until probably recently, I think Thunder Rosa was one of the first ones where they felt like you had a little bit of someone who could go. And even that, they hamstrung her eventually. But in their feud, she didn't. But someone you could put across you and say, like, you don't have to carry everything.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because the way Britt was just like, okay, I guess I'll carry everything for the first 2.5 years of this company. And through a pandemic.
Like, it is wild. She's come a really long way in the ring too. Like, her stamina has gotten a lot better. Her move execution has gotten a lot cleaner. And I know people felt like she was overbooked, and I understood that, but like, A, that part ain't her fault, and B, like, credit where it's due. That was all her, like we just said. So good stuff. This was a fun little detour. I'm gonna run through the rest of Rampage and we'll flip over into Dynamite, but we'll just kind of fly through. And if there's anything that you want to call out, feel free. Not a lot to call out here with Jade Cargill and Vert Vixen, because I love Vert Vixen, but this was one of the squashiest squashes in the history of squashes.
2 comments, and I won't. One, it annoys me that even though she doesn't get a full entrance, I understand she's gonna be squashed. Let Vert Vixen wear the goddamn very cool glasses that she has.
That's
I love
fair.
those things.
That's
2,
fair.
Vert Vixen is fucking tall. I didn't realize how big she was.
Very much. She's very, very tall.
She stood against Jade, and I was like, oh, this is a matchup. Now it wasn't. She got her ass kicked, but like, looks wise, it matched up.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good thing for someone like Jade Cargill, because sometimes you got to pick on someone your own side and be that dominant, especially when you're like 46-0 or whatever. So that I appreciate it. And I like Vert Vixen a lot. If you're not familiar with her work, go check it out. You can catch her on Dark a whole bunch and all over the indies. And then what was obviously my favorite match of the night, Anthony Bowens and Billy Gunn versus Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Remember when I used to complain about Billy Gunn being on my television in 2022? Now that's like not even in my top 3 complaints about what is going on.
It really fucking sucks. They found a great role for Billy Gunn. They did. Like, he is great as daddy ass, because he wasn't for a while taking up any of the whatever. He was just a side character. He was their manager essentially, and he was doing it a great managerial role. He got his fingers broken by Swerve. Like, he was that guy. It was perfect. And he had the big scissor me daddy ass. So like, we finally found where to put this old guy that we don't know what to do with. So what do? Bring in Jeff fucking Jarrett and be like, all right, another old guy that we don't know what to do with him. We're just gonna let him take up time.
I mean, they remixed his theme with Jay Lethal, so they're a full-on tag team. But I mean, just of the level of things that I have no interest in at all. That would be at the top of them. And I'll give a shout out to my Tuesday night co-host on this. He made a really good point that part of the issue, I can't remember if I said this last week or not, but there's like this issue where FTR is going toe to toe with the Gun Club, and then you have your tag champs going toe to toe with Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and it's kind of like none of them really feel like viable contenders that I want to see on the same level as those teams. So you have your best tag team in the world in there with like the Gun Club, who is being built as a competitor, but you kind of get what I'm saying. It doesn't carry the same weight as the Lucha Brothers or the Young Bucks, and then you have your tag champs with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. It's kind of like having both of those go on at the same time. I'm just burned out on.
No, like it's one. Like I agree. I'm not with you on the Gun Club thing. Like I enjoy them. I think they're funny. I kind of got into them during the dark tapings when they would be yelling back at the crowd because you could hear everything. Like I think they were great at that. I think they play a great role, which is like just assholes that you want to boo, and that's great for an FTR diversion. While you're diverting FTR and you're having them not go for the championship, what you should be doing with the Acclaimed is having them go against Private Party, having them go against Iron Savages, having them go against the workhorsemen. I'll even pull from a team that goes on dark, but a team that can really wrestle.
Oh my
you
God,
can have them going against Top Flight.
Please.
Even it could be face on versus face, but they could have been going against Top Flight. They could have been. You have a bunch of teams that I'd rather see you make.
Yeah.
What you don't do then is like you guys are saying is you don't have your FTR diverted and put your champs in a feud that nobody wants.
Agreed. And doing them, yeah. Like there's just way too much Jeff Jarrett on my television. And to your point, like at least the Gun Club has like they have a career ahead of them, I guess. Like I hate to say it, but like realistically,
they're young, so at least you could say like you're not putting old people over again, and they are serving a very specific purpose that whether you like it or not, you can at least understand.
That's a big piece of it, yeah. Yeah. The only other thing that we'll talk about with Rampage, because this intrigues me greatly, Patna, was this Ortiz and House of Black and Eddie Kingston promo. I love it when someone calls out people on their spooky weird guy shit.
Real quick, Kate. I gotta give Cavish Sensei this, but then we wouldn't have gotten the two amazing raps thanks to this feud, and he's not being facetious. I will give you that. Sanjay's rap and then the rap tonight, both world class. It's not making up for how bad the feud is.
Correct. And shout out to our friends at GoPro Wrestling for all of the work that they've done with the Acclaimed. Please go follow them. They're wonderful, and they've been wonderful to me on some projects that have not come to light yet, but they're going to someday. I do want your thoughts on this segment that we got with Eddie Kingston and Ortiz and House of Black. I thought this was a whole lot of fun. I thought it was intriguing. I love when there's people with spooky shit, and then there's a guy like Eddie Kingston who calls you out on it. Kind of felt like in the same vein as LA Knight and Bray Wyatt in WWE, where it's like someone will be doing something really spooky and then another person just calls that out, right? Of just like, can't even keep the lights on? What are you doing spitting black mist in people's faces? Or like, I really like when there's someone who is still rooted enough in this world that they're like, what the hell are you even saying in these rambling promos and things like that? Like poking at that because it needs to be done. And then we kind of have like this dissension a little bit with Ortiz, or this mistrust. He has his hand taped up like he might be joining House of Black. What did you think of this little segment that we got here?
So two things. First of all, I agree with you. I do like when someone's like, when you have an Eddie Kingston come out and be like, what the fuck are we doing? Because if he didn't, it'd be weird. Like that's so the antithesis of who he is, to be spooky. What I like about this a lot, though, is I will say I do not want Ortiz to end up being a member of House of Black. That's just not something I would. But not even because I don't think he would do well there, but I have a very specific reason. I want this all to just be Malachi Black fucking with Eddie and getting into his head, because I think that adds such a good feature to Malachi Black that yes, he's spooky, yes, whatever, but he's also very good at getting your head and making you question things. because that makes him way more dangerous as a character. He's not just spooky. He won't just spit in your face. He doesn't just have Big Brody King behind him. No. He's going to get in your head. He's going to twist, and you're going to think you're immune to it, but you're not. He's gonna really twist. And I think if that's what ends up happening, I think it's a great development for Malachi Black, and I think it'll end up to Eddie Kingston losing his goddamn mind. And I am all for that.
Yeah, I think there could be something really fun of like you can't trust anybody that's around you. Like Malachi Black playing mind games in that way could be something that's super, super fun. Asian Joe in the chat saying that Kingston and Owens are great at playing that role and not being typical dumb baby faces. Those are the two top examples in the industry that I feel like you could ever choose. Like very much just operating from a place of reality, because it's also the thing that I, as a fan, am like, why are the lights always off when these guys come around? Like, is somebody flipping a switch backstage? Like, it calls out the things that I think as a fan. So when somebody voices them, they're at least getting aired, even if they're not being fully negated or acknowledged. So,
but it only works if there's only a couple people airing that complaint.
Yeah,
like
otherwise it becomes a mockery of itself for sure.
Yeah, if you have every baby face comes out and goes, oh, you're turning off the lights again, then no one's on board with it. It's just stupid. But if you have one or two smart baby faces who are like, what the hell are you doing? Who is our maintenance man? Why is he flipping the lights? Like, that is...
Yeah, you can't do it constantly, otherwise the whole thing falls apart. But, like, and to your point, like, Eddie Kingston can come call that out, and now Malachi Black has to respond in his way, right? Which isn't saying, well, the lights go out, because it's saying, like, nah, I have a hold on you. You can say whatever you want about my gimmick, but, like, I have a hold on you. So I think that's super, super fun. But that is all we're going to talk about with Rampage, because we still have Dynamite to get to. We are going to skip the commercials, which I know is going to disappoint a lot of people, most of all Ryan. So I apologize, but like, I could do a like, oh, the Canadian guys, the PC police, the Impact Play of Phil Rea, the Shining Wizards podcast, cancel culture, gloat about it. There we go. Went through the commercials. I didn't name any of the shows that they were for, but there you go. So we are going to move right into Dynamite. We had a very like productive off the rails discussion, but we're going to get focused on this episode of Dynamite because it was a banger of an episode. We get MJF in the skybox with some babe opening the show. And with this, we get a distraction very early before the bell even rings of Ethan Page attacking Brian Danielson. Darn it. The bell rings, and this match was so hard hitting from beginning to end. I loved it. These two laying their shit as is with each other. They were doing that to an even more fun extent. I felt like huge body slam in the beginning of this. We got those yes kicks in there. The Ego's Edge off the top I thought was really fun. We get a lot of Stokely Hathaway and Paisley and a trucker set for the first half of this match, which I thought was very, very fun. But he gets the hat slapped off his head by Bryan Danielson in this. Really, really liked Page almost running into Stokely, but stopping himself. A couple of really strategically planned distractions in here that didn't feel like a diversion from the match. Like it all felt very natural. Just some really good wrestling in here. We got lockup reversal from Danielson into German. We got like all these really, really fun spots. Cutting to the end, we get the Ego's Edge attempt, but Bryan Danielson kind of slinking off into the corner, ducks under a right and hits the knee. So good here. Grabbing the wrists. And doing what he does best, kicking his fucking head in, man. And Paige is knocked out. So this was really, really fun. I think Bryan Danielson's pretty good at this, Ryan. I'll say my piece on this, but everything he does is just so logical and believable. It makes sense. And same with Ethan Page. But we saw it with like when we got Danielson and Dax the other week, and they had that that finishing spot where he couldn't reach the ropes because the crossface was locked in over Dax's eyes and he couldn't see. Like, there's all these nuances, like all these little pieces of storytelling that are so, so good here. Absolutely, absolutely loved this. Thought it was so much fun. Thought the way Stokely was used was perfect here. Thought this did a lot for Ethan Page. Like, I think we've been wanting to see him in the ring. He deserves an opponent like Danielson at this point. Whole bunch of fun. Whole bunch of fun. Very glad to see Danielson just like putting on bangers and winning and heading toward the title picture here. Banger after banger for sure. What did you think of this opener?
Well, first of all, we talked about your dog being submissive. We should also talk about MJF being submissive, because he was in the skybox with Daddy Doom. Or is that right, Daddy? It's Daddy Doom, right?
I think so.
Yeah, but yeah, a well-known dominatrix wrestler. So learning a little bit of MJF.
We sure are.
I really did pop the fact that it's been acknowledged on TV that he is engaged, and yet still will show up, which is
100%. Yeah.
it's just a great moment of character work from Ethan Page was when MJF yells down to Danielson, and then Ethan Page attacks Danielson from behind. Ethan Page looks up to MJF and gets pissed at MJF. And that was a great piece of character work because MJF came out just targeting Danielson, but Ethan Page still hates him.
Right.
So, like, I love that he took the time to be like, no, fuck you. I'm not a fan. Like, that was such a good small, but those things matter to me to see, like, there's still something there. Ethan Page is just so fucking good. Like, you covered Bryan Danielson there's a reason people call him the greatest. Ethan Page has been, I don't know if underrated is the right word, because a lot of people have been saying, like, he's awesome, please use him.
Underutilized for sure.
That's the better one. Yeah. Because he goes in and he does what he's asked to do, which is just kick some ass. And he looked great in this match, and he passed out. He didn't tap, and that was a big deal. And he's a star, is what I guess this comes down. He works great with Stokely because he could talk on his own, but Stokely adds that annoying manager presence that is just great for him. You know, managers for people who can't talk are obviously extremely useful, and I want that more often. But it doesn't hurt when a manager is with someone who can talk, so long as they work well together.
100%.
I felt Lambert overshadowed Page, which was very annoying. Whereas I think Stokely does a very good job of blending in with Page. And I think part of that just because, like, Dan Lambert tried to pretend he was tough, and I'm sure he is. I'm not saying he's not, but like within their world, he was acting tough. Whereas Stokely never tries to act tough. So he needs Ethan Page for something. So like
also felt like with Lambert, it was just weird. He was like shooting on millennials and calling Tay Conti a whore. It didn't feel related to anything that Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page were doing. Like, it felt like he was this manager that was so disconnected from the act. Stokely has been, always will be. He could be Stokely Hathaway. He can be Malcolm Bivens. He's chasing that bag. He's going to choose guys that are going to make him money. And that's kind of it. And it's a beautifully simple framework because he just wants to choose people that are winners, and therefore guys like Ethan Page make a ton of sense with him because Ethan Page is a viable guy that you would want as a winner. I'm not that in on Big Bill, but yeah, some guy that's fucking huge is going to be someone you want in your arsenal, right? Like, I think that is part of what works well. I think that's why there's so many managers that do have that framework of wanting the winner's purse, because all you have to do is get out of the way. Even when you're speaking on behalf of them, the work at least speaks for themselves. So I absolutely adore the pairing. I'm wonder what would have happened if the CM Punk stuff didn't happen, because we've heard reports and seen interviews, right, with Stokely saying that a lot of this was supposed to happen with CM Punk in the picture. But I'm glad that they seem to have Ethan Page on a track now. It makes me really, really happy. Really, really happy for sure. So an absolute banger of a way to open up this episode. We get a pre-recorded Samoa Joe promo and then a live promo from Wardlow where he says the talk is over and he wants action. And then we obviously get Joe in the study with a lead pipe hitting Wardlow in the knee, which comes into play later in the episode, so we'll talk about it more then. But then we head backstage to Hangman Page. God bless Renee Paquette. She's running all over the place, interviewing everybody. Dark Order is with Paige. And Renee is just kind of asking him how he is. And this was the first time I feel like we've seen Paige pop off at Renee as Moxley's wife, which I think is fun. Like, Renee has such an independent presence of Jon Moxley, but like this has gotten so personal between Paige and Mox, like he kind of can't ignore the fact that that's the case, right? So I really, really liked that reaction, kind of the overreaction, and then him apologizing for it because he's the face. The doctor says it'll be in 2 weeks, but you can't keep running out there trying to fight Moxley if you want to stay on a healing pattern here. But I really enjoyed this. I also think that's like a very natural way to have a built-in breather of if you wanted to give these guys a couple weeks off here. Paige shouldn't be going after Moxley for the next couple weeks. Let this sit until then, or they can talk their shit, but a nice way out of the gang wars that we're used to seeing. My only complaint is it seems like people only really talk to Hangman mid-evaluation. Like I feel like we've gotten a couple of these where it's like, I am in the process of getting examined about my concussion and I am currently being asked about it. But other than that, I really liked this, and I just can't say enough about Renee Paquette. I think she's just the best at doing this that there is.
Well, in my head canon, Renee actually did not intend to interview Hangman. She was still running from the assault on Wardlow and ran in that room to hide. But then to not seem like a fool, she's like, "Oh no! I'm here to interview you."
I
She
love
just-
that. I'm in
Yeah.
on that. I like your
See?
brain cannon. Well done.
Yeah, so that's what happened. I appreciated John Silver when Hangman reacted to the name Moxley. He said, "She said Foxley. She said Foxley." Like, okay,
So
what?
good. That Roosh bag, like he just continues to be
He's
most delightful
great.
presence.
I really do hope they rebuild the Dark Order because those guys are great and they're clearly not ready to split those three up. So like, let's give them something back. Let's let them have some fun.
I agree. I've been clamoring for some creative around just Dark Order where they're not everybody's henchmen. We kind of got that with Preston Vance splitting away, right? So I hope that type of stuff continues, but we will move along. We jump into Jon Moxley and Claudio versus Top Flight. Kind of confused about Top Flight before the bell here. I don't know if attacking with dives before this is like the best move against these guys in particular, but it's kind of fun. They paid for it, right? Like Moxley threw them into the barricade. I think threw Darius, into the barricade. Claudio catching Dante, like that was fun. Just seems like a bad idea to try and jump these guys before the bell, but this match was a whole heck of a lot of fun. I liked on commentary Taz saying that styles make matchups is like an old cliche, but in this case it was true. That's a fine line to walk. Like I don't like it a lot when commentators jump into Mark world, but that's also something that's like still in wrestling world. So I thought that was super, super fun. But ultimately, this match ends with Dante in the ring looking to attack and hitting the rope, but he runs right into a King Kong lariat, which did not look fun. Claudio continues with this onslaught, and Claudio lifts Darius, but he falls. And then outside of the ring, we got a paradigm shift from Jon Moxley. This ends on an uppercut and a pin from Claudio, but a lot of tandem offense going on in this ending sequence, which I thought was so, so fun. But damn, this match was really, really good. Moxley and Claudio working together is always going to be a ton of fun. Kind of seeing like the linchpin of the Blackpool Combat Club between these two guys just being like that they beat the hell out of each other. Because I feel like Claudio and Moxley go about it in very different ways, but they both what they're going about doing is delivering a ton of punishment. And then when you get things like Spanish flies in the middle of the ring from Darius, like I felt like this is what was so good about Sammy and Moxley was all of that stuff makes so much more sense in a world where your opponents are doing stuff like Mox and Claudio. what did you think of this match?
So you started with you liked Taz staying Styles make matchups, and I love that because that's also like an MMA thing where they say like it's the wrestler versus the boxer, or like the whole. So that is such a nice fighting thing where like this was way better than I thought it would be. Listen, I love all four guys. I had a fear that the chemistry wouldn't be there, which seeing in the chat they're saying they have great chemistry. I had a fear it wasn't going to for whatever reason. I don't know why. I think it's just because Top Flight is so unique in a lot of ways and like how they fly around, and Mox and Claudio do not fly around at all. So I was very worried that, but they did the perfect match of two guys flying around and two guys not. Like they blended it perfectly, which when it works, you get this kind of match. It's awesome. I think this makes Top Flight after they're winning the trios, and then now a close match against the Blackpool Combat Club, who are two of the best. I love the shirts, Mox and Swiss. Just such a sports thing to do to come out with your names on the back of your shirts. This was, like I said, this was one hell of a match. I would love to see it again. My only thing here is I don't know the plan for like what's the plan for a team like Mox and Swiss. And this is the only time it worked here because those guys are so good. Having them beat Top Flight doesn't really hurt Top Flight, but I don't want them to go beat other teams that are like big, because if they're not going to win the belts as a tag team, then don't be beating tag teams, I guess is my point on that.
That's very fair, and I thought about that too, but I kind of give it a pass because they are a stable. This still isn't two guys that got thrown together. They're stable. They've been in a ton of multi-man matches before. They've been in some trios matches before. There were a trios match against these guys right before, right? Like on Rampage. So to me, I went that way too because they started as individuals and became the Blackpool Combat Club. But at the same time, it kind of might function more like New Day, right? Where you see these guys go out and have singles matches, but they come back to their roots of the Blackpool Combat Club. So I agree with you. That was my initial thinking, but I was like, I kind of give it forgiveness because they're still at least under a stable name. This isn't just like Joe Schmo and Sally.
That's fair. I guess I worry that like if they do it like New Day, I won't object at all. I think New Day's probably my favorite handling of a stable ever. Even though it's only the three of them, but it's still a trio, but it's a stable, like the way they can go out and come back. But if it's basically just like you guys will never be a tag team except for random matches and you'll beat established tag teams, I'll be like, all right, that's problematic for me because I just don't like that. I love when what separates tag teams from singles competitors in those matches should be the tag teams just work better.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. That makes a lot of sense. I'm intrigued to see because we don't really know what's going on for Claudio except that he's ROH champion. We have a very clear idea of what's going on for Moxley, and it ain't tag team wrestling, right? So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this builds out. Today just felt like we had unfinished business from the extremely long named Trios Battle Royale, which is fine by me, but I agree. I don't want there to be a habit necessarily of this. So we move on to what I thought was a really, really fun backstage with Kip Sabian, who's got something to say to the best friends, and Danhausen, who I guess is kind of in the best friend sorta. We got Kip saying that they've been going on with this for so long, it's only a matter of time before he peels the title off of Orange Cassidy since he eliminated him. And Trent Beretta says, by that logic, he deserves a shot because he eliminated Kip. So we're getting a Trent title shot that's going to happen before Kip. And then Orange Cassidy, in his extremely formal way, says that he is going to make the match happen on Friday at Rampage. I kind of love the main event slot being Orange Cassidy defends his title in a really fun way slot. Like Adam Cole was the I Start Rampage slot for a while when he was around. I think this is super duper fun. And I love the way they use this Orange Cassidy title reign. I think it's been awesome. And I think I've said this last week, I think, like, it doesn't matter when he drops it or who he drops it to almost. Like, it's not going to matter a ton in that it won't hurt Orange Cassidy, but I think it could be really, really fun for who it gets handed off to. I want it to be Miro personally. I think that could be fun, but
I'm with you on that. If we're talking through our teeth.
I didn't hear what you said until the end. But what did you think of this segment? And are you excited for this match of Trent versus Orange Cassidy?
Love the segment. I cannot believe, and I'm so happy he did, but that Kip Sabian got himself over by just sitting at ringside wearing a box for a year. And boy, did he ever. Fans love him. This character work he's been doing has been amazing. I'm glad that they just put Penelope back with him, but just had her change her makeup a little bit. Like, they didn't try to do anything weird. I love it. And then Orange Cassidy, he's one of my favorites anyway. And just, well, then Trent gets the title shot. It's like, just so funny. Are you sure? Yeah. Like, I don't want them to break best friends up. Like, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of like minor conflict because that's just how these matches go.
Sure.
But it's not like I want them to break up, but it's just a good Orange moment to be like, no, well, he gets it first. He's my buddy. Like,
yeah, that was a really fun way. And that's also going to just be an awesome match, I think. Like,
oh, God, yeah.
Cassidy and Trent. Like, hell yeah. So, Trent?
But I'm with you on I want Miro. I've told you how I want it to go down. I want Kip to lose to Orange, be beating, then Kip and Butcher and Blade, because Penelope and Bunny are friends, are beating up Orange. Best friends are not available for whatever reason. Miro's music hits. He comes, makes a save because everybody thinks he hates Kip. Of course he's going to come down. He helps Orange, and then Orange gets up, and then he just fucking beats the hell out of Orange too. Yeah. That's what I hope happens. That's what I'm cheering for.
That could be an absolute blast, and it also cements him as being a super heel when he would be in danger. I would think of being very, very over when he came back, but I think they could be a bunch of fun. We'll see if, when, how Miro comes back, but that would be a very fun program. So we move along to a match that we will be talking about longer than it lasted. That's for sure. Hook versus Jobber number 7.
Yeah, I didn't even catch the guy's name.
I didn't either, and they gave him a lower third, but I missed it. I mean, what do you expect? You get a clothesline, you get an over the head suplex, you get, of course, cross faces into a Red Room. Hook continues his dominant reign. I really was glad something happened after this because I felt like he and Lee Moriarty had a great match, and I wanted to see continuations of him having actual challenges rather than doing what he did tonight and beating jobbers. But we do have Big Bill and Lee Moriarty come out with Stokely, who gets double payday tonight for that guy. He calls Hook the Southwest Airlines of AEW. My God, if that's not nuclear heat, I don't know what is. But Bill, Big Bill, William Morrissey, whatever, hops on the apron here. And Jungle Boy's music hits. We're getting to Jungle Boy and Hook versus Lee Moriarty and Bill Morrissey. I think this is fun. I like the idea of the program. I do feel like they kind of go to this playbook a lot where it's like someone running out after a post-match attack. Like, I wish they found maybe a little bit more creative of an avenue to get there. But I'm very interested in seeing this match. I think this could be a whole heck of a lot of fun. Like, even just Lee Moriarty and Jungle Boy, like, all day with that stuff. But what did you think of this quote-unquote match, and what do you think about where the story is going?
So the match was what it was. We knew, like, squash. Okay, great, grand, wonderful. They do love like you said, they do love the save thing. That goes back to their earliest days where there would be gang wars. When Jungle Boy went at it with Moriarty, that was awesome. Like, whatever way that almost looked real. Like, the way they connected, like, that was a lot of fun. I like that Hook couldn't get his stuff in on Big BM because, listen, that's his initials. It's not me.
Perfect. That is perfect.
Because it would have actually annoyed me had Hook just been able to dominate the Big BM. So to just not be able to and get saved by Jungle Boy makes a lot of sense. They still come out on top, but now Hook has to look and be like, I didn't just dominate this guy who's huge and stinky. He's a big old BM, and I have to figure out how to beat him.
He is a big old BM, I do love that. I do love that. But yeah, I'm excited about the matchup. Like I said, I just wish they used a more creative way to get where they were going. But you're right in that the Jungle Boy melee there kind of looked better than a lot of them do. So I will take it. Not bad. Not bad at all. We move to Chris Jericho having a backstage interview, calling Ricky Starks foolish, small-minded, and a flash in the pan. Calls him arrogant, among a lot of other things. And on January 4th, he will school Ricky Starks. He also talks about Andretti here, telling him not to come back, go work the indies. You did a great thing. You beat Jericho. But that this is all about embarrassing Starks here. Look, I'm actually really excited for Starks and Jericho. Obviously, Action Andretti's going to be involved somehow. This felt a little bit like lather, rinse, repeat for a Jericho promo, which honestly, there's a lot worse things in the world, but I wish there was like a little bit more creativity with this. But that's nitpicking. What did you think of this quick Jericho backstage that we got?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, Starks is awesome.
Yeah.
So I know the knock on Jericho is that his feuds go too long. And so if it wow, my camera went off. If it happens here, it'll be upsetting. But this does keep Starks in the show, like in a scene when he just got hugely over. So like he's not going to disappear to the background, which is often people's complaints about AEW is that like a guy gets made and then he just disappears. So this will keep Starks in a feud in the forefront with one of their biggest stars. The hope is instead of running this though for the next 6 months, maybe it's a 2 to 3 month feud, if that, like maybe even 1 if I'm feeling lucky, but I don't count my blessings there. So like realistically, I would like this to be over before spring hits. If you can give me that, then I think we're fine.
Yeah, and I think ultimately the end game is to get back to Action Andretti and not Ricky Starks, right? So I think maybe there is hopes that this doesn't drag on too much. I think because Starks is also already super established. I'm hoping that they move along quicker with this because I don't think Starks is the end game. So fingers crossed from that. And then we move along to Swerve Strickland and his white nerds, moguls, saying that they don't say anything. The nerds don't say anything. But Swerve basically says that Keith Lee didn't align with their vision anymore, so he kicked him to the curb. And we get Wheeler Yuta coming out, which I really liked, in a good promo here from him. I think he's really kind of grown in this way for sure. He comes out to challenge him. And that's something I want to see. I would love to see Wheeler Yuta versus Swerve. I would love to see a lot of the people in the Blackpool Combat Club versus Swerve. I have no interest in seeing anybody else in that quote unquote faction versus anyone else in the Blackpool Combat Club. What did you think of this?
Okay, so first of all, I do appreciate that it felt like in Swerve's promo that it almost felt like he was telling the God's honest truth, where he was like, I just found 2 guys that really needed to like make a name for themselves, because that is kind of like the truth. Like these 2 guys, whether you agree with it or not, it is the truth about them. These are 2 guys who don't they don't even they need to get over. But they're just not people that anyone wants to get over. Parker Boudreaux, I think, was better off on the Trustbusters if you were trying to slowly build him up. I mean, I know people didn't like that, but at least they were just like a side faction where you could be like, all right, let's kind of like get him acclimated to the ring, because he's not been training that long. Like he was like a WWE and he hadn't really been in wrestling that long. Like he needs to be built up. And this dude, I don't even know. Like I know he's a baseball player, all that, but like this is just a big old swing and a miss. You love
those famously charismatic baseball players. Baseball's my favorite sport in the world, and I'm like, baseball players don't generally cross over into wrestling outside of Macho Man, right? Come
Well,
on now, but
but
this
but
just feels
please
so
tell me, like,
unnatural.
gotta love the idea though of Yuta versus Swerve though. That's gonna be a hell of a match.
Oh, hell yeah. I have so much interest in Swerve as a solos competitor. I really don't have an interest in him being dragged down by a stable. Like, I thought Hit Row was really cool in WWE, and even that felt like, but Swerve's the guy
Uh,
who's breaking out.
Kate,
Yes.
you were your sarcastic comment was proven wrong instantly by Jesse Ozak.
What?
Anthony Bowens played baseball at Seton Hall, if you recall.
Okay, Seton Hall hasn't had a real baseball program since Craig Biggio was there or Movon. But I don't mean college baseball. This guy was trying to make a professional living at it, I think. And Bowens is the rarest, most wonderful gem on the face of the earth. So
He's amazing,
different.
which we will get to in a second.
We will, but before we do that, we're going to talk about what was my favorite match by far in this best of 7 with the Elite and the Death Triangle. Holy cow, this was a bunch of fun. To be honest, it did not start as that fun for me. I did not love what happened backstage leading into this match. I felt like it was all very awkward. There were some production issues that I didn't love. But man, once this made it out into the arena, this thing did not stop. I'm going to cut to the end here because if I talked about the whole match, we would be here all night, and the show already often goes 2+ hours. But I loved this ending with kind of like, I don't want to say miscommunication because both teams just thought they had it locked in, but Omega is standing tall on some scaffolding at the end here with the one-winged angel onto the table. Kenny covers and gets the win, but in the ring, which is never where matches like this end up, we get Pac with the submission, Matt tapping out, but it was after Kenny got the pin. So many fun spots in here. Everybody showed out, but to me, Phoenix just is the most unbelievable dude in the whole wide world. It's like, I don't understand how he can do things like, there was that whole sequence in here where he was just
Anything he
went
does,
from,
basically.
yeah, like anything he does, but we got like that whole him flying over Matt onto Penta with the double Northern Lights sequence. Like, there were so many things that just like, I don't understand how he stands up that fast. Never mind moves into the next ridiculously athletic thing, but that's not to take away from anybody else in this match. I just feel like every time Phoenix is in the ring, that's who we end up talking about because it's just unbelievable. The ending was a little bit I don't want to say obvious because it's not obvious, but if you're doing a dual ending, the guy who's ending that match in the ring is never going to be the one who actually ends it, right? So, but I that is the nitpickiest nitpick. I think this was an absolute blast. Like I said, the last week, like the best of 7 is not super for me. This match absolutely was. And it not being for me doesn't mean what they're doing isn't great. This has been so fundamentally sound. Every match in the series has felt completely different than the others. I'm just someone who just, that still, even as different as they are, it still feels like I'm being rematched to death a little bit. Tonight didn't feel that way at all for me as a fan. This was just awesome wrestling to watch. This was one of the strongest first hour 20s that we've gotten, I think, out of Dynamite maybe ever. So what did you think of this match? I thought it was a blast.
Well, first of all, Cabbage Sensei saying Omega broke his butt before Wrestle Kingdom. He sure did. It has a giant crack in it.
Dax broke his butt so that Omega could break his.
Listen, I got my dad joke in there. I was happy. So this match was unbelievable. They did a spot. They did my favorite. It's like, you know how you love the walkaway spot?
Yeah.
They did my favorite spot because it is one of the most logical ways to do something. So everyone complains that when someone jumps off something high, everyone just stands around waiting to catch them. They did something that I love, which is, it was early on in the match. Pac is getting up high, and you had the Lucha Bros holding the Jacksons, I think it was Jackson, maybe Jackson Omega, but say holding the Young Bucks in place to essentially catch Pac, but to be like attacked by him. And as soon as Pac jumped, they walked away. So someone is there to catch him, but they didn't just stand around. They were held there by their opponent. So there's logic there.
Yes.
I love that. It applies logic to an awesome move that people often complain about. It was like, oh, everyone's standing. Well, now there's a reason they're standing there. And well, you can always fix that if you need more people to catch them. As the guy's jumping, have the Young Bucks not let the Lucha Brothers leave. Like if you needed those guys there, like there's a way you can do that, and it could be used over and over again. And it's just a little bit of logic, just like there's logic in the walkaway spot. Like,
yep.
So I saw it, and I was immediately like, I have to bring that up because that is one of my favorite things that they did, and I'm seeing it more often now.
You're seeing it more often. It's extremely clever, and I think it's funny. We're talking about Bucks and FTR, who are probably the two best tag teams in the world right now. You could certainly make cases for the Usos and the Street Profits. But what I love too is the way FTR handles that. Oftentimes, if it's just them, they're still stumbling to their feet while people are setting up. Like it always comes on the back of something else where they had just gotten knocked out or something, and they'll just stumble around and then all of a sudden someone's flying at them. It reminds me of you're in the ocean and a wave comes and knocks you over and you finally regain yourself and then another wave comes and knocks you over. It feels like that. So I think in general, when people make an effort to masquerade that spot a little bit, it's something that I appreciate. And that's a super clever way to do it. Like there's the FTR spot of just in the storytelling. And then there's things like that, which are super clever devices to not masquerade it, but to make it make sense. So I appreciate stuff like that too. That's a really good thing to point out here. And another go ahead.
I was just gonna say about the ending. The way they could have made it better is if the announcers were pointing out, and I feel bad for the announcers. They don't know, like they probably weren't told that this was going to be the ending. But on an ending like this, you should get to the announcers and say, "We really need you to point out that Matt just has to hold out. Can Matt hold out? Like make it the thing of like, Omega's about to end this. Like, because you could see him setting up for the One Wing Angel. So you could have started there and been like, Omega's about to end this. Matt just has to hold. Can he hold it? Make that the story. Can Matt hold out long enough? Even though he doesn't know that he has to, but that is the story of like, can he hold out long enough for this pin to take place? And then it wouldn't have seemed so like a little disjointed. It would have been like a story of like Matt managed to suffer through that pain long enough to win the match.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if there's a way around that too. You can't split screen it, right? That looks dorky. Like to me, like I feel like split screening it doesn't work as well, but at the same time you want to show those things going on simultaneously. So it's a little
They did split screen it though.
I know that's what I mean. Like I feel like it comes
that's I agree with you. It looks dorky, so that's why I think you'd have to do it that way, being like, we're only looking at Matt because he has to hold on for Kenny to win.
Yeah, and I feel like they've worked together so much. Matt could know that. Like he could be faced to see Kenny setting up for it and know that if he holds out, that Kenny's locking in the most protected finisher they have, right? So
you could have said Kenny's being shown on the big screen. Matt can see him. All Matt has to do is hold on. And like that would have been a whole. That's a good.
Because all he has to see is Kenny go for the one-winged angel. He doesn't even have to see the pin, because anytime Kenny hits it, he wins, right? So
yeah, I mean, but that's again, we get to do this in retrospect. We don't have to build an entire match.
We get to nitpick. We pick nits here. That's what we do. So we move along to something else that was really great, as the chat brought up a little bit earlier. The Acclaimed and their Jeff Jarrett diss track. I'll give a shout out to our friends at GoPro Wrestling. They do all of the Acclaimed's work. They have done music videos. They have done just silly vignettes. They have done a ton of work on the indies. I think they do all of MLW stuff now. They're all over the independent scene. And I think they are now up to 3 squads of people, which is really incredible because they are just like a self-built business. And they're built off of their reputation for being really great people and really good at what they do. So go follow GoPro Wrestling, please. GPW Productions. But this was a whole bunch of fun. We got the Karen Jarrett line in there, right? We got all sorts of delicious stuff.
You were in ROH during the bad years.
Yeah, you were in ROH during the bad years was so much fun. There were a lot of really, really clever lines in this. And I like stuff like this where it's more than the 4 lines before a match too. I like those a lot of the times too, but when he gets to do like a full piece like this, it's a whole bunch of fun. So I loved this. I'm sure you did, as you have a penchant for fun things.
Oh, I thought this was amazing. This is where actually, I mean, listen, Max is the rap, and I don't want to take away from him. He writes them, and he was great. But this to me shows how good Bowens is, because Bowens doesn't have a large part in this. He's just kind of like he has a character dance around. But anytime he's on screen, you look at him like he's just got that like, what is Bowens doing thing. And I think that just speaks to his natural charisma of like, I mean, it doesn't hurt that he's ridiculously handsome, but like
Yes.
you just look at him and but it was so funny. The Karen Jarrett line, if I had something in my mouth, it would have been a spit take. Like I was like, I can't believe it. And then the ROH line, you were the top in ROH during the bad years. Like, holy shit. And then TNA, you got rid of TNA so long you got Stockholm syndrome.
That was so good.
When you wrestled
So
Flair,
good.
he was 74 and you lost. Like
it was a full diss track. Like it was really, really perfectly done. The only thing is I don't need this feud to continue, as we talked about before, but a really, really great music video. So in case this night wasn't
real quick, I just want to say
enough.
this feud would have been fine if the Acclaim weren't champs.
Not at the same time that you have the Gun Club stuff going on, though.
My point being is if this was like a third feud, so if you had FTR Gun Club, champs versus whoever, and then this feud was on the side, this would have been fine. But as one of your two main tag feuds, it just doesn't work.
Why is Jeff Jarrett on my screen in 2020?
Well,
there's
fair.
so many other teams I'd rather be seeing, but there's probably nobody I'd rather see on my screen than Willow Nightingale. Ruby Soho's right up there with her. We get the two of them versus Tay Mello and Anna Jay. And what I love is I've used the same word for Willow as I have for Ruby Soho for a really long time, and that they are so magnetic as baby faces. They're so easy to like. But they're so different in the way that they're presented. And so there's this really fun odd couple thing of Ruby coming out and kind of being a badass, but super over, and Willow just being like the babe with the power, right? Like so much fun, a total party in the ring, but like you can't mess with her because she's going to kick your ass. Like this odd couple pairing, but them having this commonality of just being so unbelievably likable is so much fun. And then you have the Jazz girls. You have Tay Mello and Anna Jay on the heel side. And this match didn't really fully click in. And I think it was just a chemistry thing. Like there was not really a point in it where I was like, oh, that was a really bad botch. That was really, really off. This happens sometimes. Great wrestlers don't always have chemistry. Like we've seen that men, women, tag, whatever. I do think this is also a symptom of people not getting enough reps necessarily. Like Tay and Anna, I've noticed especially, like they are on a different level when they are getting consistent reps. I think that's why Tay grew so much last year, and her in-ring ability was exactly that. Like she was just getting all of these reps. So I think that was part of it. It was just weird. Like it didn't fully click in. However, there was nothing bad about it. And it's just unbelievable when you think about where we were in August to where we are now in how much more talent we're seeing showcased on television, how many more stories we have, how logical it is to get to those stories. Everything is cleaner. Everything makes sense. The talent pool is deeper than it's ever been. If Sasha Banks, Mercedes Varnado comes in, whatever you want to call her, one of the greatest, if not the greatest women's wrestlers in the world, whatever name you want to put that under. I mean, my God, we are just in a completely different place, and everything that I've been whining about for 2.5, 3 years is coming to fruition here. Like, this is something that makes me really, really happy. So even though the match didn't fully click in, and I know some people were like, it was at the 9:30 slot. Also not my favorite after main eventing last week, but at the same time, what else do you put in this slot? Like, you're not going to put the best of 7 here. You're not going to put that opener here. Like, this one, I kind of...
This match was made for that slot.
Yeah,
it was annoying when they had better matches that were made for better slots, but this one was made for like.
Yeah, what else would you have to logically reasonably look at what else would you put there instead? And there's nothing on this episode that you could put there instead. There
No.
just isn't.
So a couple things. One, I will get everyone calling them Wilho. I will do it. It will happen.
Fantastic. No, I like it.
I agree with you in the sense of that, like, it didn't click in. I will say though, it's such a good sign for the women's division that we're now to the point where we're not talking about how bad the match was presented or the quality or anything like that. We're just being like, their chemistry wasn't there, but it was an average. It was a good match. Like, it was an average match, just wasn't what it could have been. Whereas before we had like a lot of like big issues. Now it's just typical wrestling issues, which is like either it hit or it didn't, you know? So that was a nice plus that they're not there yet, but they're getting to the point where you can actually just start treating it like you should be able to treat it, which is just wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great to see. I think because there was already a story there and it didn't feel like this didn't click in and there was no story and are we even going to see these women next week? Like, it's the fact that the framework is there. And again, there was no like, it wasn't like any super botched spots. It just didn't click.
And this wasn't something that AEW did to them. This just seemed to be the four couldn't get on the same page, which can be fixed. So there's a couple things. One, I meant to bring this up during the Jericho segment, but I got distracted thinking how awesome Starks is. But whenever he says the Jericho Appreciation Society, and I thought about this weeks ago, I forgot to say it, it makes me think of It's Always Sunny and when Frank wanted to join the Air Sex Society. So I hear that in my head every time. I'm like, oh my God.
Nope.
But
accurate.
Willow, I love Willow. She first of all, her mic work is as good as anyone's. She sounds so natural when she talks. It's unbelievable. She is so much fun. That rat bastard Kyle K. Sparks who betrayed us for listening to us to go host a show on Body Slam. No, go listen to that after you're done listening to us. But he keeps putting Willow as future ROH Women's Champion, and I have to say, only if she's simultaneously holding two belts, because she is going to be an AEW champ. I firmly believe that. She is everything you could want. She is a massive babyface that you can see her doing interviews all over the place and being loved. Like, she has that kind of potential. So I love it. And Ruby's a perfect tag partner for her right now. I wish we had women's tag titles. I will say that to the end of the day. I just add something to it, but they are a lot of fun. And truthfully, I like Ty J as a team. I always have. I like them as babyface together. I like them as heels together. I think Ty helps Anna Jay's character work out a lot. Like, because I think Anna Jay just has to play off Ty rather than be like this crazy heel. And listen, Ty Mello understands being a heel. Like, she really does get it. Like, giving the finger after the match and all. Like, she understands. Like, going to piss people off. I gotta give her credit. So the match itself, wasn't a banger, but it was a decent match. It just happened to be in a night where every other match was incredible. But I still love this story, and we know that they're going to go to like a no DQ match, and Ty and Anna Jay have already proven in those matches they show the fuck up.
100%. And we didn't even talk about how this match ended and kind of the spots that were in it that I thought were really good. There is Anna Jay looking under the ring and grabbing a chair. She swings and misses and gets kicked by Willow. And Anna tries to swing the chair and Aubrey is there, but Tay has a chair of her own, tosses it to Ruby and pump kicks her chair back into her face. And when you were talking about Tay understanding how to get heat, like, that's a really, really good example. And there were a couple times where she went for the move that broke Ruby's nose in the first place in this match, right? Like, that's just good fundamental sound heel storytelling. So just like a little over choreographed maybe or whatever, but
well, actually that finisher's a good spot because psychologically it's a great move. Where it failed was Ty took a little too long on the kick.
Yeah.
So
and
Ruby had to hold the chair that extra half a second. But you can fix that. That's so fixable.
8 months ago, I would have been praying for this match. You know what I mean? So I 100% will take it. Not every match is going to be perfect, but there certainly wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. So I am not mad about it. Speaking of not great, the Ass Boys or whatever are still in party mode, leaving the arena here. And we move on to Renee standing with Starks. He is feeling a lot better than Andretti, who was the victim of a fireball. But Starks appreciating Renee's compliments about being a star. He kind of just says that he's one of the few people around here who can't be controlled by Jericho. And he says that there's going to be a masterclass put on when Starks whoops Jericho's ass. Legend to legend. Big mouth and a bad attitude, he says, of Jericho. And he's going to take Jericho down several notches because he can. Ricky's awesome. We've been saying it for now. At this point now, we've been saying it for years, but just such a natural talker. I'm never mad about those Rock 97 comparisons, but it's like a modern version of it. It's an updated, cleaner, more for this wrestling world's version of it. I love Ricky, and I'm actually really. This is a match I do want to see. Like, I do want to see Jericho versus Starks. I think that could be really fun. I just hope they don't run it into the ground. Any thoughts on Ricky's promo here?
No, I mean, Ricky's the man. So whatever Ricky does, Ricky rules at.
Well said. Well said. And we're moving along to our TNT Championship match. And I fucking love Samoa Joe, especially as a heel. Before the match, Samoa Joe says Wardlow unfortunately can't make it tonight. He's got to find himself an opponent, and just with a nice dig at the hometown crowd here saying they even hit up the Broncos, but they've already taken too many L's this year. And you get a classic Wardlow trying to be stopped by doctors and refs and every other indie jobber disguised as something else for this segment. But Wardlow comes in hot. This was so much fun. It kind of started off a little rough, but I think it was almost supposed to. But from, I would say, when Samoa Joe hit the spine buster, or when the spine buster from Wardlow, when Joe is like smirking, this kind of clicked in a little bit. Like right after around that spot, the knee breaker by Joe, I think, was probably the biggest thing in this match that just was like, holy shit. There's some back and forth. We get Wardlow locking up from behind with some Germans in here. The whisper in the wind is always just like upsettingly impressive. The crowd was like a little bit split, which was interesting. I think Samoa Joe being so likable as a heel is something that they're going to have a little bit of an issue with, but who gives a crap? Joe wins here. We get a power bomb from Wardlow, but he captures Joe, he captures Joe, tries to lift him. His knee buckles that we obviously saw got compromised with that lead pipe earlier in the night. And Joe clips the leg, puts him in a sleeper, and Wardlow is out. Very, very good sell by Wardlow on this, on the knee spot. I felt like it felt real. I'm sure there's probably sincere pain when you're trying to lift up someone the size of Samoa Joe, so why not lean into it? And let's talk about that. We'll talk about the match, and then we'll dive into the post-match, because a lot happens after, including something that's going to make Maggie cry, but we'll get there.
So first of all, I think part of the split was that people thought Wardlow would win, and I think that annoyed people that he was going to win, like have this like superhero moment. I don't think I think I could be wrong, but I do think because that was kind of the feel online of people being like, I don't really want him to win after taking a pipe to the knee. Like that doesn't. And I'm with people. I hate that shit. I have mixed feelings on Wardlow selling.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So when he first walked out, he was walking so normal for the most part that Taz had to start to comment, and then he would limp, and then he would walk normal, and that's not how that worked.
No, only in that spot specifically, I thought he did a good job. Inconsistent
and I'll tell you why he didn't do a good job. And I caught it. Go back and watch. He grabs the wrong knee first, and then has to go grab the other knee.
Oh no! Okay,
it's very quick, but I caught it. He drops. He goes to his left knee, I guess, whatever, his bottom knee first, and grabs it quickly, and then goes to his other one. It was bad enough. I caught it and went back to rewatch. It's So
Oh,
that's why I have
damn.
mixed feelings, because it would have been great otherwise, but he got confused and went to the wrong name.
No,
Like,
that's 101 stuff. I didn't catch that, so good catch.
yeah, so that's where I was kind of like, that's why his selling was very mixed to me, because like he couldn't sell it on the walkout. He just was not limping nearly enough to, like, as someone with a bad knee, you either limping or you're not. Like, you're either hurt or you're not. You're not getting 5 steps and you're fine. Especially with, it's just the way he was doing it didn't make sense. Like, there was nothing in his walk that would have indicated that. And then that, if he hadn't grabbed the wrong knee, I probably would have been like, "That's wonderful." But I'm like, yeah. I was laughing. I was like laughing to myself, thinking like, "Oh, like that sucks." Like that.
No, that
Oh,
does suck. Because you can even buy like your knee went out, right? Like there are times where you like feel good again and then your knee goes out. But if you're selling the wrong knee, that's not good. I missed that. I missed that entirely. That's
yes.
that's a bummer. That's a bummer. I thought the match was really, really fun though. I love Samoa Joe. I've said a few times now, like there's not many wrestlers in this world that are more made for me than Samoa Joe. Um, he's a really good guy. He's a fucking great bad guy. He's a great bad guy, man. Like, and no more evident was that than him cutting off the man bun, in the post match. And before he does it, there's like this moment where it feels like there's going to be a show of respect, which I loved how sincere it felt like the bait was. Like we all knew it was coming because we know how Samoa Joe works, but his execution of stuff like that, of making you think there's going to be a show of respect, and then doing something as mean as making the girls and the gays cry by cutting off that man bun, just awesome heel stuff. And it, like, he's so not dramatic about any of it. Like I love that. Like he is just this ice cold killer assassin out there who you just really believe everything that he's doing out there, man. Like he's such a special wrestler. I'm so glad he's getting to have this run, because he's just great. And then after that, and I'll get your thoughts on all of this, Darby Allin's music hits. Joe stares at the ramp. Darby with the skateboard behind him. Didn't love that because Joe should be smarter than that. Crowd went nuts for this man, which I thought was a whole heck of a lot of fun, and probably adds validity to your thought that people thought Wardlow was going to go over here. But I loved the way that Joe was just staring at Darby wide-eyed at the end of this, who's holding the TNT title in his clutches. Like, I adored that part of it. Joe should be smart enough to know Darby's behind him at this point in the game, but like, his facial expressions at the end of this were so good. Like I adored it. And their first match was so great that I'm very interested to see the story that they tell in the second match, because it's gonna be bigger than, oh, Darby bumped his ass off, Darby fought from behind. Like he's gonna come out different in this one, I think. What did you think of everything that happened post match? And please say prayers for the women and the gays in your life that now have to endure Wardlow without his man bun.
So first of all, I never understood when a man bun became attractive. I'm still of the opinion they look silly, so I guess we'll never lose that.
If I could mute you, I would.
You can't, and so I could say they look silly. It's a good thing he got it cut.
You look silly.
Great heel move, though. It's going to get him so hated. The Darby thing is great. A little weird because Darby just lost. So you're kind of like, didn't Darby just lose to one of these guys?
He did. He just lost to Joe. But
yeah, so like you're back. But at the same point, it's TNT and that happens. So I don't really mind it for that title. Where like those guys do stay around. And I want multiple people involved in multiple feuds at once. Like I don't want just one thing with one person. Like spread it out. So I was all for it. And Darby needs something fresh. So continuing feuds without Sting is good.
That's what I was going to say. They do have to do the creative work about why this is getting a rematch, but I'm very excited that they are. And I feel like God, maybe this is where Miro comes back, to be honest. Like that could be such a fun thing of like him going through former TNT champions or whatever. Like there's a lot of fun things that can happen. They do owe us the creative work, But if you're not going to turn Darby heel, this feels like a very fun, fresh program to build out for sure.
Yeah.
Cabbage Sensei in the chat saying that the post-match respect fake out from Joe was so good. It really, really, really was. Like it's just believable, man. It's just so believable when Joe does this stuff, and he's such a dick. It's super, super fun.
Dick.
I love it. Well, that's what we go home on. It's kind of that ending shot with Darby, and I think that's a really, really fun way to go home. The crowd for this was electric. The whole night. They were really, really into it. It is nice seeing them responding to the women's matches, because there was a long time there where it was like the women would go out there, and because there was no development around any of the stories, we weren't really getting crowd reactions, but they were hot as hell for that match, which we didn't even think was the strongest in the world tonight. So good shit. And when you start with Bryan Danielson and Ethan Page, you kind of can't go wrong. But we are going to throw it to news and notes. We're not going to dive too deep into anything here, but it does appear some breaking news that FTR has lost their AAA titles tonight. I'm so interested, and we're going to talk about news item number 3 shortly, because you and I have talked about this a little bit offline, but I do also just want to acknowledge that it's been 2 years since Brody's passing. That anniversary passed this week. I think it was the day after Christmas, which is just must be a hell of a time for Amanda Huber and her kids. So that is really, really rough. But I think people look back on that tribute episode as probably one of, if not the greatest tribute wrestling episodes to ever happen. And I think if you go back and watch that montage, like, I think there's a lot of people, self-included, that would just still go out and bawl their eyes out. I always feel like the best way to give a nod to wrestlers to go back and watch their matches, some of their best matches. And there's plenty there for Brody, him and Cody for the title, obviously. Dog collar match. Him and Moxley had a really great match. All those 6-mans with the Wyatt family and the Shield in WWE were so great. The Bludgeon Brothers had a really fun tag run as well in a lot of ways. So, there's never anything that like soothes an untimely death like that, but definitely weird that it's been 2 years already, and definitely a lot of matches worth going back to, and just so rare when you find one of those guys who nobody in the industry has a bad word to say about. So just an acknowledgement of that there. I don't know if you have anything specific to say about it. So we'll move on to news item number 3, which is that Dex Harwood getting all the CM Punk marks excited. Also saying some things that I feel like shouldn't be that controversial about Jim Cornette, that came across as controversial to some people. He basically said that if you tune out all of Cornette's bullshit, he has some really great things to say, which I think is true. It's not great enough for me to tune into Cornette's podcast on, but he has a lot of wisdom to take away from it. I hate the filter he wraps it in. I think it's terrible. But the bigger news item that came out of this was him talking about CM Punk. Of course. I've noticed, and I always have my ears out for stuff like this as a publicist, sure has been a lot of CM Punk's not such a bad guy after all press going around. That could be a symptom of people being off the hook to talk about it legally, but we've heard Hobbs say stuff, we've heard Stark say stuff now, and now Dax, who I think we, had pieced together as pretty good friends with Punk at this point, but he called for all 4 men involved to bury the hatchet and make some money off of this and tell some great stories. Not only to make some money off of it, but also saying that those are 4 of the best minds in the business, and that you could really have a true impact on the future of pro wrestling if those guys could get over it and work together. He mentioned that he didn't feel like FTR felt welcome necessarily from day one when they showed up, noting that they didn't love Colt Cabana making fun of their accent, which I thought was an interesting thing to select. And also saying a few things that were interesting about Punk being FaceTiming Dax right after Brawl Out happened so that Dax would hear it from him. And I guess the biggest thing that kind of came out of it was Punk said that he just wanted to have fun, didn't necessarily want the championship the second time around. I'm wondering if he wanted to move on from the Adam Page stuff, but that they felt it was best in the company and he understood that. So there's a story right there of FTR having a downfall, turning heel, and CM Punk and the two of them going for those trios titles, man. It is sitting right there if they wanted to. The downfall of FTR, I think, is something that is extremely interesting with or without Punk. I wish there was I'm back. Sorry, my internet cut again. I wish there what was I gonna say? Oh, I wish that they had held the AEW tag titles at the same time as their other titles so that the downfall could kind of feel more complete in a way. But if they want that story, it is a sitting duck right there waiting for them. I think it's super interesting for whenever people that are as over as FTR have to start to question themselves. I think is always an interesting thing in wrestling. But I don't know, man. CM Punk hasn't been released. And I know where my head and my heart are, of course. I mean, first and foremost, you want everybody to be happy and healthy and feel safe walking into a locker room. That is number one. But CM Punk is one of, if not my favorite wrestlers of all time. So I, of course, want to see him back in a ring. But I don't know, man. It's getting interesting with how heavy-handed the Young Bucks were with the CM Punk sucks chance on being the elite with that match that they did in this best of 7 that basically referenced everything. It feels like maybe they did work something out. At the same time, the Young Bucks' whole thing is that they take real life criticisms and turn them up to a million, right? So what are your thoughts on this?
My God, if they can make this work, so that all four can get together and be like, hey, we may never like each other, but there's fucking money to be had. Like, if you can make that work, and this does seem to be, I don't want to say suspicious, but I'm always a little suspicious about timing, like when things like this come out, because it always feels like, because he wasn't negative towards the elite, he wasn't negative towards Hangman, like he was very particular in his words. So this does almost feel like laying the groundwork for smoothing things out, especially because we haven't heard anything else. Apparently there's a Cabbage Sensei saying your boy Sean has something.
There was a comment from CM Punk on an Instagram post of the Pro Wrestling Podcast that says, let's just shake hands and say sorry, LOL. And then CM Punk said, duh. I don't know, man. It's getting interesting. The fact he hasn't been released is interesting. The Meltzer camp has kind of said that it's still a no-go. It would be, if they had Sasha Banks come in and within a couple of months CM Punk returned in the storyline with MJF as champion, like, what on earth are you looking at, man? That would be insane. But I feel like it's interesting. As more time passes, I feel like it's more likely he returns than he is released. And I feel like I would have felt the opposite about that maybe 2 or 3 months ago. So, man,
this definitely
man.
feels like, sorry, I was trying to find his tweet, but that was, you said it, summed it up perfectly. That it does feel like they're laying the groundwork, and I agree, and I know Meltzer's camp is saying it's still no-go, but let me put it this way. You're not going to say it's a go. Like, at this point, that side is going to ride out that it's a no-go until it's a go. But what you would do is stuff like this, which is start to get fan interest again, but never actually declare that it's a thing. Like, so I'm not doubting what he's saying or seeing, but if I mean, maybe it's just the way my brain works, but if my brain was working to be like, we can get fans all hyped up for this again, keep saying it's not going to happen so that when it does, they're extremely interested. They want it, but they're still surprised. It's
you know what's interesting too with that Dax interview? He had said like the day of All Out, Punk was in good spirits. Obviously, Larry was there running around before the show, right? It just feels like something set the dude off. So if it's like something that's addressable like that, you hope that they could, but it's CM Punk. I'm obviously like the world's biggest mark for him, but it is innately interesting that people talk about him as much in his absences as they do in his presence for different reasons, maybe for the wrong reasons, but like that dude just trends on Twitter constantly. Like it's really, really interesting. So
I mean, truthfully,
I hope they can bury their shit because
I think distance is helping. The fact that it has been a long time, I think anger fades, things go away. I think, but I it's not to say I don't trust anything being reported. It's just that I'm more keen to think that they might be dropping hints through this stuff than they will go to someone and say flat out, like, this is happening. Because at this point, that's how you get a surprise, but get fans interested.
It's also just like it's never not happening till he's released, and it's never happening until he's in the ring, right? Like if wrestling has shown us anything, it's that. If sports have shown us anything, it's that. Look at Carlos Correa. Like it's it's an interesting one, man. Like I have no idea what the reactions would be if he came back. I think he's coming back heel, so it doesn't matter, but like I don't know what happens when that dude gets in the ring again.
To me, it seems like it'd be all on him coming back. Like I don't know any of these people personally, but I just can't see him coming back being a hard line in the sand for the elite of like he doesn't come back. I just can't, because those guys got so much shit earlier, like at points in their career, that they then had to go work with people again. Like I just don't see like him being like, but I could be wrong.
It's everybody should be happy and healthy where they work, I think is the most important part. But like it is a thing of like, what was the actual root cause? And we still never really got clarity around what was CM Punk's backstage role. Like, is this a thing where if they can set aside their backstage roles or whatever that is, like, would that remove all the tension about it if they're not competing for making the same decisions or whatever the hell? Like, it is a complex one, man. I think it's a very interesting one, but my God, an elite versus FTR and CM Punk program. Holy shit.
The only thing I'll ever say about Punk, and it's the one thing that always annoys me a little bit about him is, and the reason I bring this up is the elite versus FTR. The elite is not likely to leave most things. Like if they go into promos, they're going to say some shit. It's who they are. And he's going to get mad, but that's also who he is. So it always annoys me a little bit that it's like, he's willing to say shit. And then like, because you can't ignore it.
I mean, he can't come back and them not. Right? Like, it's just too right. Because he made it public. Like there's no way that they can come back and not dig into that. Right. So I don't know, man. It's getting more interesting by the day if you're a CM Punk nerd like I am. And boy, am I. But more than a CM Punk nerd, I am in favor of everybody feeling happy and feeling safe where they work. So do what's right by your locker room. If adding CM Punk back into the mix is something that makes sense, God love you, because his wrestling is some of my favorite wrestling of all time. But Brian, that concludes our kind of unorthodox episode. We got a mat run-in. We had a broader discussion about women's wrestling. We had some Rampage and some Dynamite talk tonight. let's close out with it's the end of the year. What any overall 2022 AEW thoughts?
This was the year of the most what the fuck is going on that I think I've ever experienced in wrestling. We, had super highs. You had Forbidden Door. You had all these great moments, and then it had Brawl Out and shit like that. So it has been the most like what the fuck is constantly going on year.
MJF leaving, right? Like getting on the plane. There's so in general in wrestling, this was the most chaotic year I think that there's been. I don't know. There was like this really magical time of CM Punk just came back, Adam Cole and Danielson debut, and you probably got like 6 months after that where it was just like high every time, and there's no way you're going to be able to maintain that pace. But this was probably, I would say, from Forbidden Door to Full Gear was probably I don't want to say a low point because it's not like it was unwatchable, but a downswing in booking, and I think a lot of that had to do with ROH, and I think a lot of that had to do with very real life circumstances. So, and I subsequently I felt like from Full Gear to now, they've been very much back on track. Like I think we are back into Wednesday nights live is must see television. So I'm very excited for that. It seems like they found their footing again. But definitely a weird year in wrestling. AEW was not exempt from that in any way, shape, or form. We're seeing so much growth in the women's division this past quarter. We're seeing, MJF as a champion, I think is a good thing, despite how we got there. Good stuff, man. I look forward to 2023 because I feel like from the pay-per-view to now, they've been back on track. So looking forward.
Agreed. Agreed.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Kate.
Where can the good people find you outside of the show?
You can find me, Ryan, tweeting from the Mark Order account at Mark Order Pod, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays for Dark and Elevation. You can then interact with me there the rest of the week. You can also go to our link tree and get a link to get stickers for free. But if you want to financially support us in some small way, you can go get a really cool t-shirt from our pro wrestling t-shirt store. So please go check out our link tree at our Twitter. That is where I am.
You did the plugs that I was going to do. I was going to talk about our stickers and our merch, but fine. You can do that,
You
and
have
I
30,000 other things to plug.
I do not. I'm on Fightful YouTube on Tuesdays and Fridays. And I do Get the Flick Out Here, and I'm here, and yeah, okay.
You do the select shows.
I do the select shows on Mondays and pay-per-views, and I'll be back at Excite Wrestling once I get my dates. I miss doing commentary. It's been really, really fun. And some of my favorite Excite matches are going on the days that I can't be there, so it figures there's like Big Bill Collier, whose name that belongs to, and LSG, who I adore. Having awesome matches there on the days I can't be there, which figures, but I definitely will be back there. I miss doing it. It's been so much fun. But yep, Tuesday Sour Graps on Fightful YouTube, Wednesdays right here, AEW Rampage and SmackDown. Sean will be with me this Friday, which should be very, very fun for the return of John Cena to the ring. And keep an eye out. We got more. We finally got our t-shirts off the ground. There's more around the bend for the Mark Order fellas and me. So we thank Matt for joining us. We thank Ryan and me for being here. And Ant when he bothers to show up. We, of course, appreciate it. But have a safe and wonderful new year. See you in 2023.
See ya.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.